Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 167 of Geeks Chasing Squirrels across the multiverse. My name is Greg. I am the Bat Daddy 52. And Sarah, I think right before I hit the intro, I got you saying nano hats as we're going,
Nano
which
hats.
is awesome. So, hey, y'all know what I learned this week? Very important lesson. That in the world of constipation and diarrhea, it's okay sometimes to be a normal piece of shit. Yeah, I've been watching Hunters. Very first episode. Do you remember that quote? That was an awesome quote. Anyway, that didn't go as I planned. Ross, what's up, man?
I'm lost with this Nana hat thing. Like, what am I looking at, Sarah? What is this? Bananas don't need hats, man.
Well, that's to keep them from like going bad. So
this looks like some crap like my grandma would make. Like, no bullshit.
Exactly. That's what's so cute about it. Yes.
Sarah, what's up?
Oh my goodness. I gotta find the humor somewhere, dude. Like I said, I've had a shit week. It's been awful. It's probably gonna be worse next week. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. Just to kind of let everybody know, because the My Lady Kitten, I take the kitten part very seriously because I've always had cats. And I lost my 17-year-old this week. So she was pretty much my OG ride or die. So that was kind of tough, but it'll be good. It'll be good. We'll survive. She's in a better place. It's all good. So
It'll be
it is what it is.
Yes, it will. I am very sorry for the loss.
Yes.
Hopefully we can give you some.
Advocate.
Yeah, hopefully we can give you some, I guess, levity here, and then kind of make it feel a little better and have a good time.
Well, like I said, if you know me very well too, I've got my dogs. So I mean, Bruce, his little goofy self, he's helped out a lot too. So I mean, he's my snuggle bug. So fortunately, I've got them to kind of help the pain, ease up a little bit. So yeah. That's why I'm laughing over the Nana hats. So y'all be quiet.
No, nothing wrong with Nana hats or Nana hats. There's something to laugh at.
No, what y'all get for Christmas.
God,
nice. That means I got to keep the banana in the house.
Not putting it on a banana.
You will.
You may be uncomfortable with the photo you get in return.
All right. Well, y'all want to get going? We got just a few things. 3 shows and some news to talk about this week. Some big news to talk about this week, which I think we're going to start with. And I'm going to pass it to the anchorman, Ross, and talk about. Yeah, I dubbed you that. Let's talk about some news, man. DC dropped some serious stuff this week.
You want to start with the DC stuff?
You got to start with the DC stuff.
Let's start with the DC stuff. Well, first off, DC is considering everything else they're doing that's not part of this new DCU Elseworlds. And so just to go ahead and take the sting off of some things, the Penguin show, 8 episodes, I guess, what's his name? Colin Farrell came out and said that it is going to pick right up after the Batman 2, which the Batman 2 I did not know was going to release in October of 25. Feels like forever.
Wow, that is a long time.
That
forever,
is a long
right?
time.
It's a long time, yeah.
Elseworld Stories, that's when that's happening. And then what he had brought up was this whole entire list of what the foreseeable 8 to 10 years is going to look like with the, what did he dub it? The Gods and Monsters Chapter 1.
Which I can live with that. That works. I'm interested to see where it goes. Hey, real quick question though. So Pattinson's Batman doesn't come out the next one until 2025. It's a 3-part series, correct? There's a 3rd movie, as far as I understand it, coming up. So does that mean that we're going to be running this alongside the actual new DC Prime universe?
So it seems.
Yeah, okay. That's what I assume so.
Okay.
We have the Joker 2 already filming. The Penguin's going to be an Elseworld story. By the way that they're making it sound, it's going to be an 8-episode show that I'm not sure that it's going to be the only 8 episodes about the Penguin that show up. It's all kind of lost in the sauce with all the other news that's going on right now. But we're looking at Joker, Penguin. I have not heard anything official, actually, about whether or not John Cena's character, what do we call that? Peacemaker, is going to be... I'm assuming it's not going to be Elseworld. It seems like it's going to be part of the connected universe.
I hope so. I really grew to love that character.
So To do a rundown real fast, he was talking, like you said, 8 to 10 years. Movies, TV, games are all going to be connected. So the voice actors are actually going to be taking on the live action roles or vice versa. I guess if you have a live action character, then you'd have someone like Peacemaker John Cena come in and do the voice for the animated character
Okay.
and for the video game. So it sounds like
Consistency. I like it.
part of that I like, part of it I don't, because it does rob quite a bit of people out of jobs. You have a lot of people that are really good at voice acting, and a lot of people are a lot more show a lot more character through the voice. So HBO stuff. Some of it is HBO stuff.
Yeah.
I'll give what I can, what I know so far. They seem to make it pretty. When he did the whole little Twitter spiel that he did, when it was HBO, he seemed to make it very apparent that it was HBO Max, which I thought was really weird because the whole HBO Max Discovery Plus buy thing, like it's so fluid right now because I don't think that they have a plan on just exactly how they're going to come together. I'm assuming.
Do you think that means anything? Do you think it sheds any light on maybe the direction they're going? If he's being so adamant about that?
What I pulled away from it personally was the time frame that it could be coming out.
Okay.
And so if it's going to be on HBO Max, especially exclusively, then it is possible that it's going to come out sooner rather than later. If this whole first chapter is supposed to be 8 to 10 years, then I'm assuming that of the few things that he listed, he's going to have a lot more coming out. And some of this is starting to be written and possibly cast, I guess. Or, they're starting to look for casts. So
right. That's more what I'm excited for, is hearing some casting news, to be truly honest with you. I talked to Nathan about it, and I'm kind of in the same ballpark he is. Some of the stuff sounds cool, but until I hear casting and kind of more storylines about it, I'm not going to get super excited, even though it's going to be DC and I'm going to watch it. Before we dive into like each individual part, Sarah, I want to ask you. You and Brian watched it together, or he watched it, and you caught what he was watching on the screen. What do you think of it overall? Like, are you excited about DC's?
I'm kind of the same boat you are, because it's like once you have like the castings and stuff, maybe give me a little bit more. I don't know, because it seems like with DC, you get teased with so much, and there's like not enough meat to it. So I think once we have a little bit more meat, maybe I'll get more excited. Because right now I'm kind of like, okay, we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, because
you said, "Man, that was perfect." Meh.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, I hate to, I want to be excited for it, but I don't want to go in with any expectations either. Because personally, my Wonder Woman, I was perfectly fine with Gal Gadot. I mean, she, checked all the boxes as far as I'm concerned. So I'm like, are they going to bring another Wonder Woman into it? Or are they going to? So that's what I'm saying. It's like with the castings, I'm just kind of curious. I think I'll get more excited about that. But I mean,
it's
honestly,
possible that you're going to get that Wonder Woman. There have been statements made, and I mean, I don't know how clickbaity all this news is, because like right now everything is still continuously moving. The fact that it's very meh is because we don't know specifics. But James has been quoted as saying that some of the people return cast wise have an open door invitation and can have a conversation. There are no promises to be made, and there's nothing that's going to be like, Gal Gadot is definitely coming back, because we've all been burned a little bit here and there. At the same time, I think that we just need to kind of like let it unfold before we really start to take stock in it.
See, that's
the way I feel about it.
Well, see, I differ. Like, I want a clean break. To be truly honest with you, I love the Snyderverse, and like I want a clean break. And I'm not saying that I don't want to see Gal Gadot anymore as Wonder Woman or Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Like, I love these characters, but I just want a clean break from this universe. Like, give me something fresh and new, because I didn't get everything I wanted out of the Snyderverse. I got a lot of stuff that I loved, and I'll have that forever. So now tell me a new story. Like, I don't want to, in my mind, intertwine these two universes together. And it makes me wonder.
I feel like it is going to be newer. I feel like it is going to be newer, because it seems like everything that he's kind of presenting, it seems like it's from a younger version. That's kind of what I got.
No, I get that too. Well, yes and no, and we'll break this down as we go into things, because some of the things I feel like have to be an older version of this character based on the casting, but the characters we've heard it go on so far. But what I'm saying is, it just feels weird. Like, if you bring in Jason Momoa as Aquaman, or you bring in Gal Gadot, and they act differently or they look differently, it's still gonna feel weird in my mind, you know?
I'll caveat that with the one project that I finally heard someone officially say was going to eventually be the revamping of this whole entire thing, and that's The Flash. All right.
Are we
You can
actually
talk
getting that?
all day. He said it. So apparently at some point it's going to come out, but he actually said, this is going to be he didn't say flashpoint, but it's going to be the kicking off point of changing everything.
Mhm.
And now
Okay.
you're playing just like with your favorite time paradox conversation. You start playing with that multiverse aspect of, do the faces matter? Does the storyline truly matter when you can just go back and change it? I think as long as they treat it with a level of respect, and you can turn around and do just about anything with it, because how many times you've had superheroes that they actually change the character who is, Superboy or Superman or super this or super that or Bat or blah, 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 blah. So many different things. You can take
That's
it
true.
and twist it and turn it. But you got to have the respect for the actual, I guess, content to really pull it off and make it work. So
That makes sense. I mean, I suppose if it's done well, then obviously there's something to be said about it. I mean, I guess now that I think about it, the entire Batman series we grew up with had 3 different men playing Batman in the same universe. So yeah, I mean, okay. I don't know. I hate to say it like this because it sounds bad, but I'm ready to be done with the Snyderverse. Not that I ever wanted it to end, but I know it's never coming back. So I'm
Yeah,
ready
just
for
kind of
something
like
new.
just cut it and
I'm
just
ready for something new.
appreciate it for what it is and just move
Mhm.
forward.
Exactly. So let's break it down then. Let's go ahead and talk about the different stuff he announced. He announced television shows and movies that he's going to go with. And Ross, I'll let you go with whatever you want to start with. You got a list in front of you. Just name something and we'll talk about it.
well, the movies that are still to come. Okay, so Shazam, The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman 2.
Okay.
So those that we knew about, and these are stories that are still going to be pumped through the pipeline. I've heard various things about Aquaman 2, whether or not it was going to be like a 2-parter to turn it into a trilogy of movies. I don't know what that is at this point. Once again, the whole reason of us always being lost with the DC conversation simply comes back to the simple fact that none of us get great news on it. No one truly does. So what he announced to start off with was the animated show Creature Commandos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that looks like the one animated show that I've seen so far. Now, everything that they showed in his Twitter clip was all like concept art. So it all looked animated, but this was the one show that actually said it was going to be for TV and it was going to be animated.
Okay.
I don't know nearly enough about all this DC stuff that he's talking about. It's not an era in which that I follow. So,
Well, this will be a fun new thing to learn. It'd be like Guardians of the Galaxy. If anybody told you they knew about Guardians of the Galaxy, or Eternals, more or less. If anybody told you they knew about Eternals before Eternals came out, or knew a lot about Eternals before Eternals came out, they were lying to you.
Yeah.
So,
well, see, that's how I kind of took a lot of this too, because what he's pulling at. I mean, I'm thinking about Guardians because, yeah, there was a story there, but it wasn't really in the mainstream. A lot of people didn't know about it. But man, he did such a fantastic job with it. So that's what I'm kind of basing this off of.
Yes.
It's like, you're taking something that's there, but you're kind of bring it back. And I think it's great. Bring back something other than just Batman and Superman.
DC needs to invest in their other characters. They have a whole
yes, and there's a lot of other good ones out there too.
Yep.
It sounds like it's going to happen.
It's what Marvel did. I'm sorry to hate to compare it, but it's what they did. They invested in characters that weren't necessarily. I make this argument all the time. I'm not gonna say they were A-listers, but that weren't like the mainstream guys you would think of in Marvel. And
but there's such a great library to pull from. I mean, there's just it's like a little database. I mean, it's like you have these up here, but yeah, there's some really great ones underneath too. So pull them to light.
Right. What we're one of the things that I was really proud to hear him say was that towards the very end of the clip, he mentioned how the focus was going to be on the story, with the storytelling, the writers, and to get everything right. And so I know that there's going to be a whole bunch about, connected context. So I'm happy to hear that. But what I really want to know is, are they going to put the passion in the storytelling? Because I feel like Marvel's doing that, but it hasn't really been a lot of people's forte. The problem is now you've gotten so many stories that, it's not a cookie cutter thing and not everyone's going to be for it. DC hasn't had the ability to really do that in a connected universe. So I'm interested to see what their first 10-year plan is going to be before they move on and see what the stories end up folding into, as they reach their second decade of storytelling. The next show was the Waller live action show, which they're bringing back the same actress to play Waller. I'm assuming that's going to be partially connected to Peacemaker. I just don't want... What's the best way to say this? I never liked the way that they focused on Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad stuff. I liked how she was very much a background character, and you brought in, her daughter for Peacemaker. I liked that. I don't know. It was funny. That the twist was good. You got the feeling that Amanda Waller was someone not to be messed with, but at the same time, she wasn't there and present. I hated what they did with her in the first Suicide Squad. Just was not a fan of it. Not a fan of what really in the second Suicide Squad movie.
Well, does it feel like they kind of tried to make her like the Nick Fury of this universe?
Yeah.
And that's fine. I like Nick Fury. Samuel Jackson does a great job, and Viola Davis does a great job playing Amanda Waller. I love her as Amanda Waller, but I get what you're saying. Like, unless she's going to be a more active part of what's actually going on, she needs to be more of a background part of the story.
And I didn't like
but not,
I didn't like it wasn't damsel in distress, but she was the person that she was, covering her own ass essentially in the first Suicide Squad movie. I didn't really like that storyline. That's just me. I got no problem with her as an actress. I really like her.
Yeah, there were a lot of things with the first Suicide Squad movie that people have issues with, and maybe we'll see a different cut one day. Who knows? Probably not, but probably not, especially now moving forward with DC. But sorry, go ahead.
Superman Legacy is going to be the first film, and that's coming out July 11th of 25. Once again, we got 2 years.
So we're going to see the new Superman movie before we see the second Robert Pattinson Batman movie?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. I'm down.
I don't know really a whole lot what the story is going to be. Actually, I just kind of want to be surprised. There's been so many Ant-Man things that have come out, and I'm just like, first off, that movie's super close. I don't want to know anything about it. Stop showing me stuff. When it comes to the Superman, just I'd give me the little bit, but I'm all I want to do is wait for the trailer. Let me know the casting. I want to know who Superman's going to be.
Yeah.
Superman Legacy, the casting on that's going to be the key thing, because I've already, you already started seeing like, I guess the fan castings are saying, oh, this would be great. This, because I saw one list, I was like, oh God, no, please, no, click, scroll, no. So that's going to be the big deal for that one, definitely, because who's going to? I'm sorry. Who can come after Henry Cavill?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
I had a couple of friends I messaged them this at work whenever I saw that first image of the display and everything, and he put the video out, and I sent it to my friends at work, and they said, you know what, if Cavill's done it, I don't care. And it's funny that they're big DC fans, and they're like, Cavill's done it, I don't care. And I get that. Obviously I'm going to move forward with Superman, and I kind of agree, like, Cavill's my guy. What I want to see more than the casting right now, though, is the concept art. Because what I'm as interested in about who plays the character, I want to see what he's going to look like in the suit. And look, White Chocolate Espresso says Nick Cage. No way, dude. No way. I'm sorry.
Well, and also,
I've seen that suit. Yeah.
You saw the question too. It's like, trunks or no trunks?
No trunks. We're past the age of trunks.
I think we're done. We're done with that. We're
past the age of trunks. Like I said, after Henry Cavill's Superman and the Zack Snyder Superman look, I don't know. Now, I will say the who was the one who played Superman on the Supergirl TV show?
I can't think of his name.
I can't remember his name. Y'all know what I'm talking about. He played a good Superman, and he looked good as well. So I will give him that. That was a good look as well. I'm interested to see where they go with this. Like, I don't know, because there's a big difference between like Superman that we grew up with, the New 52 Superman, and then the Rebirth Superman. Like, there's a lot of difference in the way they look as far as suit and everything goes. So I'm interested to see where this goes in the future. And I'm, like I said, I'm kind of more excited about seeing some concept art about what it's going to look like more than the character. Because I feel like as long as he's a good actor and he's a square jaw, has a little curly Q head, he's good to go, So.
Well, I find it funny. I think they're calling this legacy right off the bat. Like the first Superman you're going to get in this universe, the first movie that's going to like kick this universe off truly is called Legacy. Like there is no.
The start of a legacy.
Yeah.
But I get what
we
you're
can't
saying.
have a Superman Begins.
Well, do we know, is this going to be a beginning story for Superman? Are we going to get an origin story and then go through, or do we not know anything else about this right now other than the name?
You know what? If I'm a betting man, you're not going to get any origin story that you've already seen redone countless times. I don't think James Gunn and Safran together are going to be building a universe where it's going to kind of be like our current version of Spider-Man. Like, you got a little bit of information, but you don't need to be beaten over the head again. You've already seen it twice, at least on the big screen, much less everywhere else. Make the comment again about Martha and the bead or the pearls and everything else. Like, it's like we've been down this road countless times. I think that's why you're going to look. Superman doesn't age, so I can't say this about him. But when we eventually make it to the other big character in the DC universe, you're going to see a different version of him. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Lanterns, live action TV show. Which is supposed to have both of your big lanterns.
Okay. So that was going to be my question. Are we talking different Green Lanterns, or are we talking the whole spectrum of lanterns, like the colors? Or both?
It seems to be there's going to be a focus on the big two, but at the same time, you're going to get a universe that talks about the rest of the lanterns. I don't think they're going to dismiss them, and I don't think there's going to be a real half-cocked version of like, oh, there goes another, lantern ring somewhere off to go find its new owner, like you did in the Snyderverse.
Is this going to be a buddy cop show? Like, seriously, I mean, I assume when you say the big two, you're talking about Hal and John, right?
Yeah.
So is this going to be a buddy cop show?
Here's the deal. With all of this stuff, I do not think that you're going to get you're not going to get a weak version of it. Whereas the Peacemaker was on HBO and it had a whole different sense of it, of like DC, like it didn't feel real CW versy. It really felt a little bit more like big screen kind of. I think that you're going to get that for all of this stuff. I think that his idea of like moving all of this DC stuff forward is to create a certain tier of like continuity that does not make you think that I think White Chocolate said it earlier about the Flash, like he runs so fast that he changes actors. You're not going to get that mismatch. You're not going to get that like different takes on the costume. You're not going to get that different CG animation. Everything's going to be the same across the board. So what I think is, even if you did get a buddy cop, that it would be on a level that would be superior to some, BS buddy cop show.
Well, and don't get me wrong. If you give me a Lethal Weapon with Green Lanterns, I'm cool with that.
You're not too old for this shit?
Yeah, always. Yeah, getting too old for this shit for sure. And that's originally, I think, what we thought the idea of was going to be for a Green Lantern, even movie, was going to be like a buddy cop type thing. And like I said, done well, I'm fine with that.
Well, I don't think that anything that you've heard really has legs underneath it right now.
Don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's quite possible that he is adapted or taking stories that people have written and is having them rework them to be a part of his universe. So it is possible to take some of the stuff you've heard. You might hear it turned on its head or upside down, whatever the case may be, but it's going to be different than what you probably have imagined in your head anyway.
Okay.
The Authority. It's going to be a film. You?
No
Nothing?
idea.
No?
Nothing.
Gotcha.
No. Yeah. No idea what The Authority is going to be about.
Look, there's quite a few of these. I think The Authority was a group of characters again, and it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a film, live action, and it seems to be very much in the vein of. I mean, I want to say something like Thunderbolts, but I don't think that we've gotten to that point where I can actually say that since we haven't seen it yet. So,
no. Well, this is another thing that they're taking that's a little not mainstream and trying to kind of infuse into the universe, and I'm going to see how it works out.
Yep. Paradise Lost, next TV show, live action. What you got to say?
Sarah's got her finger up.
Amazon's. No, that's the only thing I can see.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've kind of seen, it's just basically Amazon's possibly before the time of the Wonder Woman, before Wonder Woman was who she was. Maybe I'd love to see that. Take me the mascara. I mean, I'm good. I mean, I would love to see more of that.
After seeing Rings of Power.
Well, I just feel like there's a lot to be added to it because, with even in the comics, there's a lot of Amazonian characters that are really super interesting. It's not just Diana. It's not just Wonder Woman. You were pretty much, kind of introduced, to them in the Wonder Woman movie. So to have a series where, you kind of focus more on not necessarily Diana's origins, but kind of like where basically the culture she comes from, I think that would be fantastic. I think that would be awesome.
I think it was all robbed in the Wonder Woman and Snyderverse era. Like, I think that the boxes and the scene where everyone shows up and they start having the Infinity War style fight on Themyscira.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we missed so much? We only got it in really one movie, and that was Wonder Woman 1. So I think that it's a good idea to go for a show, because I think that you can totally set a show in a universe that doesn't exist. You can talk about Rings of Power if you want, but it's all going to be character and what the story's trying to tell.
All right.
To me, Rings of Power didn't work because it wasn't the story just was taking forever. So,
well, I also think too with Rings of Power, there are more people who are more in line based with the Lord of the Rings movies, with more general audience at least. And so it was a different expectation. I don't think most general audience has a thorough knowledge of Wonder Woman and her history and Themyscira and everything else. So it's going to be new for everybody.
Yeah.
You don't have expectations going in. It's going to make it a little different. Real quick, Ross, Valerian in the chat asked if you watched Wheel of Time. I felt like it had kind of the direction of Rings of Power, but well done. You watched Ring of Time, correct? Or Wheel of Time?
I watched Wheel of Time, yes.
Wheel of Time.
The story could have gone... the written story was so good that the show stole a lot of the things that I wanted to see. It didn't provide the things I wanted to see. And one of my biggest qualms with that show was that it felt very much, Hercules, warrior princess, like where everyone is mystically clean and shower and bathed. And supposed to be in this time of absolute filth, and just everything felt out of place with the, I don't want to say cinematography. It was all the, costuming and all that. You make everything look rugged. It didn't feel like a rugged lived-in universe.
What you're saying is, if you've been in a battle and punched in the face, you should have bruises and cuts and not be totally like you hopped out of the shower and got dressed up.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah. I get that. Okay, I mean, it makes sense. I haven't watched that show yet. I was going to. It looked interesting whenever I saw the commercial for it, or the preview for it, but it was just never something I jumped on. And he asked, did it get canceled, Wheel of Time? I believe it did. Didn't it? I don't think there's another season of it coming out.
I don't think it is getting a second season. I have to go back and check. I think I remember talking about it, but I don't remember what I said. Okay. Now, it's put it on, if you got nothing to watch, which Greg, that's probably not right up your alley, but anyone else that wants to watch anything and doesn't have a list of shows to watch, by all means, I'll watch The Wheel of Time.
What you're saying is my list is already long. Don't add something to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got more shows for you to watch. You haven't watched yet.
You know what, dude? As soon as I get my new TV and get Apple TV, I'm gonna have 3-4 weeks worth of stuff to watch to stream because Apple TV, I haven't watched any of it, because I can't get Apple TV on my TV.
Better hurry up. About to get that
I
Ted
know.
Lasso 3.
I know. All right, let's keep going. What else about where we were at? Paradise Lost.
Oh, Brave and the Bold.
Oh, yes.
Brave and the Bold, the story of Batman and Damian Wayne.
I love this.
That's a
I
film,
love it. I
isn't
love
it?
it. I love it. Go ahead, Sarah.
That's what I'm saying. It's a film, isn't it? It's not. Like
It is a
live
film.
action.
Sorry,
It's a
it
film.
is a film.
Listen, Son of Batman is one of my favorite DC animated films. I love Damian Wayne as the Robin in this film, and the thing I love about it the most is it means unless they decide to do what Snyder did and just change your Robin to whatever you want to, because he says that the Robin that was killed was Dick Grayson, which is not the case. Unless they do that, this means that we have the possibility for a Red Hood and a Nightwing live action, which I want to see both of them. These are two of my favorite characters. Like, I want to see those guys on screen. It's cool, and I love Damian Wayne as a Robin. Like, so we might get to see a really cool live action Robin, and we may just get to see a badass Nightwing and Red Hood. So I'm totally down for this. I love the idea. I want to see the castings before I get too excited, and I want to see some concept art, because for me, Batman family characters, the suit is a big deal. The way they look is a big deal. It can make or break anything. I wasn't a fan of Pattinson's suit in the concepts when it first came out. I didn't have as big of a problem with it when the movie came out, but it's still not my favorite. So
I gotta be honest, I don't know if you've been happy with a Batman suit other than Batfleck right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate, no. The Batman suit was the one that did it for me. I do like. I'm not gonna lie, man. I liked the Keaton Batman suits. Like, I thought that was it just looked, even though it was rubber and it was kind of solid and very rudimentary, it still looked pretty good. It was what I pictured Batman suits, but I want to see like the gray and blue, and that was the Snyder suit was the closest thing to the gray and the blue that we got. Gosh,
I don't know if you're gonna get blue. I mean, I'm not sure, but
yeah, I doubt you will. Yeah, it'll always be black.
Don't be disappointed if you don't get super in-depth Robin stories right out of the gate with the first film. I feel like what they could do is start off with a young Damian and really show, like, maybe it's been a few years since Batman took a Robin on, and he's focused a little bit more on like being a dad. Maybe you got Nightwing out there taking care of business for a little bit, but I think that it does lend itself to like tell the future story of it. So all I can say is like, just don't sweat it right off the bat.
Yeah. White Chocolate Espresso says it's the only Robin you could sell to the audience. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you could probably sell Carrie Kelly to the audience and they'd probably take it. So, but look, I want them in my mind. They're going to follow the Son of Batman storyline, which is going to be cool, which means that we'll get to see Deathstroke, which means we'll get to see Ra's al Ghul, we'll get to see Talia al Ghul, like all this stuff. If you're involving Damian Wayne, then you got to kind of involve the mother and the grandfather somehow. And I think that's cool to be able to start that out, even though I know that the what's Christopher Nolan, the Nolan verse started out with the Ra's al Ghul stuff. It's a cool enough character. I don't care. I'll see it again. Like I'm down to see the version of it.
I think you got plenty of time, but I do wonder how much of that story you can retell before you get somewhere else to where you need to, I don't want to say bring something new in, but just intermingle it, somewhere deep down to where, maybe he's the string puller, like I don't want to say like Thanos-ish big character wise for Batman, but maybe you could just take something like Ra's al Ghul and really turn it into like a looming doom.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and the best part about the characters that in the DC and Marvel too is there's such a rich universe of like stories. Like a character like Ra's al Ghul, like there's so many different storylines you can go with him and have him in there. It's not like a big bad. It's a big bad, but it's kind of a background big bad. You can kind of tell a lot of different stories with him, and I don't think you'd have to rehash the same stuff that the Nolanverse did to be able to tell a good story with Ra's al Ghul. So, especially if you're going in the future, like I feel like the story with Ra's al Ghul in the Nolanverse was like the beginning, the young and Batman becoming Batman. Batman Begins, obviously. Whereas this version is probably going to be what 15 years in, maybe longer.
It's got to be quite a bit.
Yeah, it's got to be a good ways into Batman's,
which I like, because as much as we've gotten tons of Batman stories, I'm completely on board with him not being the main character. I think that we're high time ready to see Batman as I hate to say the same phrase, but like the string puller, the guy that is in the background making it all happen. Maybe Batman should truly be the Fury-ish character for the DC universe.
No, Batman should be the Iron Man-ish character for the universe. To be honest with you, he should be the Iron Man-ish character. Where like think about Iron Man in the team up movies. He's
Civil
the top
War was
guy.
the first thing I thought of.
He's the top of the top of the tier, but he's not the main focus of the entire movie. That's who Batman needs to be in this. Batman and Superman. I mean, I think there's a ton of comics you look at and they say we're going to go all the way to the top, and they go all the way to the top in the Watchtower, and it's Superman and Batman sitting right there. Yeah, that's the top of the tower right there for DC. So you can have those guys be there and not be the main focus of every story.
Well, someone who's not on top is this Booster Gold.
Oh, I'm excited for this too.
That's going to be like another like Peacemaker type thing. It's going to be kind of like it's going to be crazy.
I got that vibe.
It's going to be probably a little lunacy.
I'm excited for a Booster Gold because since we're still having this Blue Beetle movie, these characters can be tied together very well, and we're talking about a Justice League International here. If these kids are two big characters from Justice League International, so I'm excited for this. Like Booster Gold's kind of the basic story is what he's a time traveling loser. Ross,
this is why I enjoy it because I want to see what time travel does. I want to have that conversation with Greg.
Well, it's basically a guy who's his storyline is he's a guy who's gone back in time and taken technology from the future to come back and be a superhero because he's kind of a loser in the future. Yeah. And that's cool. Like I said, I like this character a lot. It's going to be fun to see how they portray him.
Find me a sci-fi fan that hasn't been like, if I could take all the crap that we have now back and go relive like however many years.
Sports Almanac, baby.
I was going to say
Sports Almanac.
Back to the Future too.
That's right. Best time traveling movie ever.
Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow film.
I'm excited. Once again, I need casting. I need storyline. I like Supergirl as a character. I have no problem with them putting her in the forefront of their movies because it's going to be really good. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens with this whole Flashpoint movie. Like, are they... I feel like you haven't built up a big enough universe to tie in like a Crisis, like Crisis on Infinite Earths. You haven't done that, but you can build a Flashpoint movie and not have any of these characters and still start from fresh. So I don't know what they're going to do with Supergirl. I don't know if they're going to try to give her a backstory as far as she's been here the whole time, or this is a fresh new thing.
No. So what he was talking about in this little bit was that she was born and raised, well, at least raised on a chunk of Krypton after Krypton exploded. And she is essentially going to be a anti-hero from the sounds of it. I know nothing about the storyline in the comic book, but what it sounds like is that she's going to come with the chip on her shoulder. So there's going to be a lot more than just a sweet, Supergirl that's going to show up.
Are they changing her name to Karen?
Yes, it is possible. She came to Earth
that's right.
to see your manager.
White Chocolate Espresso asked if DC's going to have a new Batman. Why not make the Reeves Batman movie rated R? I agree.
Fair point.
I agree.
Well, I think we discussed that whenever they first came out with it.
Yeah. What do you think, Sarah? Supergirl?
Meh.
Nah, really?
Yeah, I'm just never really been a big Supergirl fan. I mean, I really haven't. I mean, watched the film from, oh God, what was it with oh, I can see her face. I can't think of her name. I mean, I thought it was
Forever
cool,
ago.
but I'm like, yeah, for like like the original Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it was cool. I don't know. I just never really got into it. That was just never really. I don't know. I'm just a Wonder Woman. That's just my character. That's the Amazons. That's just my. It's like I've
It's
got Superman. I'm
tough.
following this, but then trying to bring
Yes.
Kara into. I'm like, I've already got this. Okay, I can deal with seeing his Superman family, that kind of thing, but I just never dug that character. I just never really got into it. It's just like
Get that?
with the CW. I mean, I watched the show, but I just never really got into it like I got into the other ones.
Is it fair to say that maybe we've never been given a proper version of Supergirl that would make us want to really like this character? And I don't want to shit on with Melissa Benoist, the character who played in the show, because
Helen Slater, that's what I'm thinking
yeah,
of.
I watched that show for the first few seasons. It was a good show, but what I mean is I don't feel like that was enough to get people to be like, damn, I want to see Supergirl like on screen. I want her to be a big part of this. Do you think that we've maybe been robbed of that so far?
Well, I mean, as
I
far
think
as
there's a
Supergirl
major
goes,
stigma problem.
well, this is for Supergirl. To me, a live action show, to me, that's enough. I don't need a film. I don't really need a film. I think a story like that, I think would just be better off as some of these stories can be better told, as a live action series versus a feature film.
I think that they need to be careful if they're going to do a Supergirl film and a Superman film. That's almost like doing an Iron Man and a War Machine film.
But that's the point that I was going to make right there, and that is it's Superman, and Superman has an origin story that makes him feel like he's one in a million or billion or whatever, how many people were actually on Krypton.
Mhm.
So when you take those chances or statistics and you start to whittle away at them by bringing someone like Supergirl into the story, it takes away from it. In comic books, it works out a little bit better. When you start putting this stuff on a screen somewhere, it starts to eat away at the glory that is a Superman story. Because we're
Agreed.
led to believe that you take someone like Kal-El and you put all of that knowledge in with him and send them to another planet. And then out of nowhere comes Supergirl. It eats away at the mysteriousness and
I get that.
the godlike character that you have with Superman. Whereas you can have multiple Robins, because in a real world, like, there is nothing that eats away at that. All of them have different storylines. All of them have their own little, I guess, full-fledged arcs that you can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start bringing in someone like Supergirl, it really muddles up the overall picture. If Supergirl came first, Superman would be the problem. But Superman apparently came first, so Supergirl's the problem.
Okay. What else we got?
Last thing that he talked about that is so far being talked about in the first chapter is Swamp Thing.
Ooh, I like it.
So
I
as
like
a kid,
the
I
idea
like the Swamp Thing show.
Mm.
It was a cool thing that was on. I was a fan. I cannot say that I have watched the new show that was out.
The one that was filmed here in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah. It got canceled after like a couple of episodes, didn't it?
I'm not sure how long, but it was in a real weird time frame. I think that may have been pretty heavily COVID related for the continuation, like the decision to actually continue to go forward with it. So
Kevin asked if we can finally get a William Dafoe Joker in the DCU. Man, it'd be awesome if we could. It really would. But I doubt we ever will. Is there anything else? This whole DC news?
not really with DC. That's about it. I mean, we're going to get a lot more. Clearly, if it's going to be 10 years, we're probably going to get a lot more stories. The way that they can pump out TV shows, especially if they keep them low key, something like the Lanterns may take a whole lot of VFX work, but if you can just come out with a real simple story like the Peacemaker was, I'm willing to bet they can pump out shows all day And we only have one animated story from right now, so I don't know how many more we're going to get from that.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, it's good to actually know something, as opposed to being told that things are coming and we're going to wait. And they didn't lie to us. They said, after the beginning of the year, you're going to hear some stuff, and they delivered. So I don't know. Phase 1, can we call it, of the new GC?
Chapter 1, that's what you called it.
Chapter 1? Yeah, let's call it Chapter 1. Let's call it Mark 1. I like that. Mark 1 of the new GC. So we'll see what happens, man. All right, do y'all want to talk about Bad Batch real quick? I got Tony right here in the background. I don't know if he wants to come in right now while we talk about Bad Batch, or wait until everything's going, but we'll see what he says. But let's talk about, unless there's more DC stuff.
I'll give you there's not DC stuff, but I'll give you a real quick glance at things.
I forgot we had more.
Netflix did come out with this password thing accidentally. So you got that. I just wanted to throw that in there for you
too. It's so funny that they think that. Okay, so you know what the protocol is, right? Like what they're going to do is if you sign in to a VPN or an IP address that's not like yours that you normally sign into, they will prompt you to your master account a code to be able to send that code, and you can use it for 7 days. Like if you go to a hotel or something like that, you can use your credentials. This is not going to stop people from sharing passwords.
Well, number one, it won't work.
Not even close. But
number two, you can always mask your IP address anyway. So
right. And well, the thing is too is like I forgot what I was gonna say. Like when you have your why am I forgetting what I want to say? I'm drawing this a word salad right now.
All that matters, they said, here's the deal. They dropped this information on accident. It wasn't even supposed to come out. But they're going off the YouTube protocol. If you got to sign in for your home network for every 31 days or whatever the case may be. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there's tons of people in this world at this day and age that really travel a whole lot. So if that's going to be your thing, just wait and see how many people you actually lose. I'm curious on... I don't think you're going to lose a lot of people because I think a lot of people are just going to not keep signing in. But you watch their viewership go down quite a bit.
Probably. And I remember what I was going to say now is the thing is, if they're doing this and they only get 15% of the people, they scare 15% of the people into paying the extra $3. Look at how much money they're making. Just with that amount of people. Hey, real quick before we go on, I want to bring Tony in. Tony from the C3 Panthers podcast is going to join us tonight. We got to talk about some hunters, and I think he's going to do The Last of Us as well. Tony, what's up?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Fantastic.
Good, man. Yourself?
Hey, Tony.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I got a question about the Netflix stuff.
Yeah, hit us up.
I think Ross is right about... First, I think Netflix is impermeable to cancelship, like to canceling. Like, I don't think people really do it. Unless, man, we hit a recession. Like, I think that's just one that I just have added into my life like a cell phone.
I agree.
In so many ways. But and maybe
it's cockroach.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm old too, and that's the one. But it's like the best platform. Anyway, I do agree that it might not subscriptions might not go down, but viewership, like just how often you use the app, where you're sitting in different places. My question is I don't travel a ton, but I watch a lot of Netflix at work on the other monitor while I'm grading papers, and. And it's in the same zip code. So I have Hulu, and Hulu tries to fight this with a zip code thing. And I think that's what it is. So I can watch it on my mobile wherever I go, but I can't bring a Fire Stick to the beach for the weekend or something like that. I have to stream it from my mobile to the Fire Stick because it's like catching my mobile app, I guess, or something. When I go to work, is that going to be a problem? Like pulling it up on the I'm using the same Chrome. It's just me. Watching it 7 miles down the road.
You're talking about the problem, man. This is the teething issues that we're going to keep having, and it's nonstop because there is no beginning, there is no end to how they're going to be able to truly keep this 100% policed. You can fake your IP address to your home IP address.
Too complicated for a regular person.
True. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
not that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
that even that complicated. So Greg one time said this is my dad has, and I mentioned it on this show. He showed me, I taught him how to pirate, and he became the pirater of all the stuff that you guys watch. Like he has never paid for it. He actually pays a pirate website now and gets everything. It's awesome. And he shared his password with me. Thanks, Dad. Shout out. But I mentioned it to Greg. I was like, oh, you could just pull it up on this. And Greg said, you know what? I just rather pay for the crap and not have to deal with.
I would, yeah.
And I agree with that. Like, so
Yeah.
many times, like right now, we're kind of trying to think about pinching pennies more right now because of costs going up in life and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, man, I could get all this crap. But do I just want to work one more hour a week and not have to deal with it and just pull up my Hulu app?
Mm-hmm. Well, that and in bundles are the way to save now. Like, to be truly honest with you, like, Ross turned me onto this, and I didn't even pay for ESPN, but I had Hulu and I had Disney, and with a bundle, I'm paying less for all three of those than I was.
Still
for
hard to
Hulu
log into all that shit.
Yeah, you got to relog in just one time though.
Well, you got to remember all your passwords, dude. That's the thing for ESPN.
I don't know. I know like 3 of my passwords. My phone knows all the rest of them.
Yeah, I know. I just beam everything.
That's why I got this little book right here. Because I can't remember shit.
Here's the thing with Netflix. Okay, they made $31.6 billion last year. Okay,
not in profit though, did they?
In revenue,
okay.
Not in profit, but in revenue. Okay, but I mean, I imagine that's 18.76 billion in revenue. That's quite a bit of money. I'm not too worried about Netflix not having money or their employees not getting paid. They just open up their own private jet line. So
I think they're wasting
doing
time
something like that,
this.
I don't think that you're hurting for money.
I personally think they're wasting time fighting this. I think they let Hulu, they let HBO Max, they let all these other newbie Paramount Plus them deal with the problems of not getting of losing 5% or 10% of revenue or subscriptions because someone's sharing their password. Netflix is a behemoth enough that like it can float with holes in the bottom of the boat. Mm-hmm. And I think they let them die that way and let it. So I think that really, and I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of it like from the YouTube model of our podcast and stuff. It's like, if people are watching, you're making money somehow. And it might be indirectly, like, yeah, you might have watched all these series on your mom's account, but if your mom cancels and you're hooked on these series, like you're going to find a way to watch it. Like, and I just feel like that is a long-term money. I think right now they're doing this because they had a bad year. Well, and this is a shareholder thing. This is a shareholder thing. They're just trying to show that they're not hemorrhaging money. This is like Walmart right now doing the security shit with the self-checkout.
Right.
They just went through 3 years of bounty by doing the app, by us coming and picking up our groceries at Walmart. And now, as things are leaning out a little bit, and the shareholders are going, "Well, where is our profits? Where are why is it we growing? They're like, "Oh, well, we can do this and bump the stock price up $1 or whatever." That's what I think it is.
Yeah,
the thresholds are so fine. That's what you got to pay attention to. You can't. How do you keep growing when the thresholds keep getting finer and finer and finer? That's what the business problem always is. I am massively always on the side of the worker, and like I'm pro labor, but I hate when people want to sit there and destroy and take down companies, and they're like, "Oh, they're making billions of dollars." I'm like, that's all good and well, but how do they do it? And now they're talking about the little things that they have to do to keep making money. Netflix will keep making money regardless. There is like you said, they are the behemoth on the scene, and why not let other people figure out the methods to this? HBO Max is, they're now part of Discovery Plus, but the amount of research and realigning of their actual digital platform that they did was massive, because they did a crazy conversion to AWS. And this is all technical job.
Is that the Amazon stuff?
The web service stuff.
Okay.
But it's massive, because you got to talk about how many people sit on a Sunday night and are going to watch Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, Last of Us, any of these shows that people, that viral video that was going around with the whole entire hotel or apartment complex, and everyone's watching it. You can see all the lights.
Oh, nice.
Like it's a massive thing. So when these companies do this, Netflix doesn't have that problem. They started on a cloud-based network forever ago. And what that allowed them to do was to literally convert all of their content to a much easier platform for people to intake and digest easily. That was the switch.
It always works. It always works. I've never had one problem in my entire life with Netflix. I don't feel like with HBO. I've had it every now and then it's like, oh man, the app got hung up, or I hate their interface. I just hate their search, like all of that. But Netflix is just got the premium product.
They're
their content. Yeah. That's the problem. Like you said, if people aren't watching it, they're not going to renew that shit. Greg, how many times do we sit here and talk about this stupid crap? No one watched it the week it came out, and it's gone.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But their audience is completely different than any other platform. The amount of people that they have that are of Korean descent, the amount of people that they have all over the world, they are more widely available than any other streaming platform in the world. So that right there, Behemoth again.
I wonder if they're most widely available entertainment service in the world, I guess like a studio. We're thinking of to the effect of I don't know, what's the biggest studio that makes movies that's in every continent and every world where they put a movie out, it comes out everywhere.
Streaming is almost like a
GM or something or whatever. Or whatever.
Streaming is special. And so streaming is totally different than what you would consider a movie company or a news company. Because, you take the Sky Network, which is like Sky Sports, Sky News, Sky everything overseas, all of that content, you can consider that one part of one big conglomerate. Netflix being a streaming service is in a realm of its own. All these other streaming services have something to piggyback off of. If there's no other standalone streaming service that has the power to stand up against HBO, Paramount, even Amazon, it's amazing.
Yeah. I know I ask people all the time if they've watched stuff and they ask me what service it's on and they say, oh, I don't have that. I never had that problem with Netflix.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Everybody has Netflix. Like you said, that's the base model. Everybody has Netflix.
The younger kids don't as much. My students are always and I think they just their parents have Netflix. So they're just well, I guess if I wanted to watch Netflix, I can just go to my mom's house or something. But I guess we'll share the password. They are really on their phone so much. Is that young kids are consuming their content through we should be making TikTok shows or something.
I think
it's all Discord.
My kids watch TikTok more than they watch anything, to be truly honest with you. TikTok and YouTube more than anything else my kids watch.
It's interesting stuff. I just think Netflix is going to win. They should just keep doing what they're doing. Keep focusing on putting good, more content out. I understand. I think they're going to have to adopt. At first, I was kind of upset about the Hulu models of putting out 3 shows and then a week thing. But I actually like it now. You know what I'm saying? I like that. But let's do that first bump where you get 3 shows to really get us hooked into it and then come out on the weekly model. I think that's the only thing that faces, or one of the problems with Netflix. I guess whether their self-created content, their own content is it's so, when it's really good, I watch it all on the first weekend and I got to wait a year and a half, 2 years. If any production slows down, I do go back and watch it a second time usually. So that is,
it's been so long.
I still think that is you can shorten the timeline and keep interest alive that way. So I think that they should be working on those things. Is how do we keep people excited about Netflix content rather than
relevancy and currency?
Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest with you, a show like Umbrella Academy is a perfect example of that. I love that show so much. But it's a year between when the next season comes out. So I'll watch the first season or the season that comes out in 4 or 5 days and then be done with it. And then I loved it, but I won't remember it all until next season when it comes out and I have to rewatch it again. If it came out 3 or 4 months later.
I'll run a joke with you, actually.
What's that about not remembering?
I'm going to watch it Greg style, which means I'm not going to watch it until the show ends. Then I'm going to go back and watch the whole entire show.
Honestly, man, that's the way to do some of these things, to be truly honest with you.
Isn't it always aren't you always pleasant, secretly happy when you've never watched a show that other people have told you is really good?
There's 5 seasons.
Yeah, and then there's a new season coming out next month, and you become the expert on the show while the person for the last 4 years has been telling you to watch the show, and you're like, well, what do you remember about this? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, you're the expert, dude. Come on.
That's what I did with Walking Dead.
That's what I did with Hunters. That's what
Yeah.
it did with Hunters.
Yeah.
I'd never seen Hunters until it started kind of popping back into my feed because of the new season coming up. And
Oh,
I
we're gonna
went
talk
back
about
and
that,
gave it a
man.
chance.
It's
So,
good.
anyway, I'm sorry I took you guys on this Netflix stuff. I'm really interested in the streaming dynamics going forward. I felt like we're going to see some purge, or I don't know. I wonder how long every one of these apps, like, are we going to get overwhelmed by them? And I'm just ready for Netflix. I think Netflix should also try to buy some of these too.
Yeah.
Netflix
maybe
is
they don't
buying, but they don't have big production company money to buy,
Like
as in
Disney
like they
can be
can't go
like,
in and merge with like HBO and all their properties. You know,
I
Paramount
didn't
owns.
think HBO was that big though. I guess they were the smaller one back in the early 2000s, right?
HBO, AOL, like a Time Warner, like you
Yeah.
start talking about all
Yeah,
the companies that are under that umbrella.
the ones or behind them, above them in a way. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
You're right. Whoever owns them.
Paramount's grabbing Showtime. And so like now, you know, Showtime or Showtime Plus or Showtime, whatever, like all that's going to be grouped
Yeah,
together.
but I don't
with
want to pay an extra add-on for it. I just want to get Paramount.
But that's
You know,
the
I don't
funny
want to
thing.
get Amazon plus the 17 partner companies they bought up for $2 add-ons. I just want to get the merger.
Right.
Yeah, to see what
And have
comes
all
out
the
of it.
content,
You're right.
right? You want it all.
What I want is streaming service, and I want to have everything.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
The ideal situation is to have one company that owns all of them, and you can just say, "I want to pay for this and this and this and this," and be done.
I don't like
pick
that
what you
idea.
want. No, in entertainment, I'm okay with that. In certain aspects of the world, I'm not. So
And that's competition, though, because think about how many times we sit on this show and we talk about how things suck compared to other things.
True.
And you know what? This is going to make Netflix better. That's all of this.
I hope
it does. Yeah.
I truly personally feel like Netflix has fallen off in the past decade with their storytelling when it comes to like the there's been great things that come out. Not a lot has been Netflix original that has come out. Like, you know, like Umbrella Academy, stuff like that. We started talking about, there's a show here and there that keeps coming out. But when you start taking everything into effect, the cancellations, the widespread audiences that they're trying to reach, the amounts that they're coming out with is massive. Mm-hmm. But the things that I feel like content wise, what I like about other streaming services is that you get much better bang for your buck because you get so many more well-produced stories from start to finish. And Netflix has been lagging on that for me personally.
You think you're saying that you just get more IP that way with these other ones because they're like established content? Like, you know what I'm saying? So like if you go to Paramount, which I know is Sarah's favorite, right? Is that like you look, is there 7 damn Star Trek shows with 7 more on the horizon, and it's such an established content medium, while Netflix even in some of their earliest heyday was when they had the rights to the Marvel shit and it was an established story. We have to always get to know every Netflix show. Right before we like is like what is, and then we can buy into it. So it's that IP, and they're kind of getting away from that because they don't like to invest the money that it takes to produce something like House of Cards.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Quality wise, yes,
I can see that
because I like Disney because I like Marvel, Star Wars, and everything else. But Disney, everything else sucks. Like I have no interest in that thing whatsoever. But I keep coming back to it because they do own my childhood. So
and that's why they bought that stuff, was so that way they could sucker you and everybody else in. And I get it; it's a business model; it's a way to do it. Hey, real quick before we get too far off this, because we're going to end the Netflix talk here in a minute, we got to get talking about Bad Batch, so we can not go for not to have a C3 Panthers podcast and go for 4 hours here. Look, we always try. No. We always try on the C3 Panthers podcast to go short, but there's always so much Panther stuff to talk about. It's so opinionated. I love it.
And you get me.
And well, I get you, and I get this man here, Cody Lashley. I'm gonna bring him in. First of his name, King of the Andals. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
What up, bro? Just finished a very productive Friday free for all.
How long was it?
That's an odd saying.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It was 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Oh, short for you guys.
Actually, that was kind
Yeah,
of short.
Yeah. I feel like we have 20 people on the show every Friday. Like there's so many
good
people
time.
coming through wanting to be on the show. But I guess it's good problems to have, though.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Definitely is.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, so real quick, you were saying some stuff in the private chat, in the comments. I wanted to get your thoughts on this Netflix thing here. You said Netflix is still hemorrhaging money and they can't afford to purchase another streaming company, which, yeah, I think that's their biggest. That's if they have an issue, that's their biggest issue right now.
Netflix has a problem where for a long time, and by the way, if my mic cuts out, it might dip out for a word or two. Just tell me to repeat myself. Tony knows what I mean. But Netflix, they have a problem where they just throw money at content and they just hope that something sticks. And every once in a while, they'll get a Squid Games out of it, or they'll get a, what was this last show
It's
that
not
everybody?
every once in a while. It's a lot. Ozark. We can go down a list. I don't think people are giving
don't know,
Netflix
man.
credit
What,
about
like,
how much real content they
when
put
you
out over the
compare
last
them
decade.
to HBO, I feel like HBO, when they hit home runs, they hit way bigger than Netflix has been able to hit.
Only two. That's because you are a.
But you're
That has
also
nothing to do with Game of Thrones. HBO has an established history of look, The Sopranos.
That was
The Wire.
25 years ago, dude. That's 30 years ago. You weren't. Those are my
But
shows.
you're still
Get out
talking
of my.
about it, right?
Yeah,
Right,
but they
but
weren't
that's my point.
streaming. They were not streaming.
Netflix doesn't have any of the type of quality compared to HBO. HBO is they're
You're out of your mind, dude.
they're the
They
cream of
earn
the
the
crop.
Playing in
most.
different ballparks.
Did I listen to the
Don't
first?
lie.
I listened to the first hour of this show, guys, and I just heard about dysfunctional DC. All I heard was dysfunctional DC talk.
Yeah.
HBO owns the most dysfunctional shit in the world. So don't
That's
give them all
true.
that credit.
They don't have a Last of Us. They don't have a Game of Thrones. They don't have a Sopranos.
Oh,
They have good content, but they don't have.
crazy.
They have more content, but they don't have the quality content.
To
They
be
No,
fair,
it's the
they also
reach.
get. Oh, good, Ross.
My only point is like the reach is totally different. The reach of Netflix is completely different, and the target audience is completely different than what HBO goes for. And the way that they evaluate the content that they want to bring in, and the way that they want to plan, market, produce is totally different. Those two are almost uncomparable. I don't think that you can have that same kind of argument other than the simple fact that the two of them both put out streaming content.
Do you know what's funny about us talking about all this is that we talk about streaming services, Netflix, Prime, Hulu, all this stuff, and nobody ever mentions Apple TV. Even though I know Apple TV has amazing shows. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I hear from everybody, Apple TV is amazing. But we never, ever, ever compare them to everything else.
It's because you don't watch anything, so I can't talk about it.
It's because but I'm not talking about just us.
Nobody
I'm
has
talking about-
Apple TV, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think that's Apple TV's problem. They're not as available as everything else, to be truly honest with you. I can't get Apple TV right now. Not because I don't want it.
Oh, I can
'Cause
tell
I
you how
can't
to
get
get it, dude.
Well, I could get it. I'm sure I
Hey,
could get it.
Ted
illegally, I'm
Lasso?
sure, yeah.
Ted Lasso is an awesome show.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
From what I understand, everything
I
they put out
love
is
that
amazing.
show.
So,
And by the way, I don't give a damn about soccer at all. But it's just it's one of those shows. It doesn't matter how old you are. You don't have a heart if you don't love that show.
I hear you.
It's awesome. But no,
I
I hear
just
you,
watched
Joe. I
the
don't
first
watch Apple
episode
TV.
of shoot, what's the show that just came out? Shrinking, and
Yeah.
it is pretty dang good. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, it's one of the few shows or movies that Harrison Ford has come out and said, when I read the script, I had to be a part of it.
Damn.
Like
Yeah.
Harrison
Cool.
Ford, Grumpy McGrumpface himself, came out and said that.
That's cool.
So I'm completely on board. Like I've said, best bang for the buck for the content that you're going to get is at that platform.
Okay. As soon as I get the opportunity, I'm going to have it. I'll let you know right now. So just got to get there. Well, do y'all want to get out of the news? I know we got Tony and Cody on right now, but we have to cover Bad Batch real quick. Luckily, it's a 24-minute animated show. We'll only talk about it for a few minutes. Do y'all want to wrap up the news and start talking about some shows?
Do it. I'm going to talk about Visions, but we got a couple months before that comes out. So.
Yeah, we got a little while before that comes out. So let's talk about Bad Batch then, real quick. Tony, Cody, just give us a second. We'll knock this out real quick. Because once again, I don't want to say this show was a filler this week because it was better than the shows last week. But I don't know where this show's going as far as like a main storyline. I don't see one right now. All I see is villain of the week type stuff. And while of the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, this one was the best villain of the week show, I'm still not really finding a story going in the background of this Bad Batch. I have no idea where they're going. It just seems like meaningless storytelling to me.
Go ahead, sir.
Crack the neck and pop the fingers. What I say?
Well, the thing about it is it's like Omega. I'm like, if this little girl, oh God, I'm like screaming at. I mean, I was watching it working, I think yesterday. I'm like just trying to do. I'm like screaming at my phone, like, what are you doing?
She's
like,
always the problem, right?
Causing
Always.
shit. I mean, stop it. I mean, it's like there's a reason Hunter says, "Stay with the ship. Stay with the ship. Do not walk off of this ship. Don't go anywhere." What does she do? The
Every time.
absolute opposite, because she
Every
is
time.
a typical youngin.
Yeah, my
I
least
don't know.
favorite character
She's
in
like
Star Wars
just
is that.
really taking me out of it. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, this episode, it was cool seeing, bringing the Jedi into it. That was really cool.
Not
If
only
I
a
hear the
Jedi.
word lasers, yeah,
A Wookiee Jedi.
yes.
Even cooler.
Gunji.
But if
Sorry,
I
keep
hear
going.
laser swords spoken
Oh my
one more
God.
time, I'm gonna lose my mind. It's a lightsaber, for God's sake. But that was the one thing I wrote down. I was like, not a laser sword.
I think they do that to piss us off.
Not
Yeah.
laser sword.
Yeah. They do that to piss us off, I think. And it works.
Yeah, but
every
I
time.
mean, it's it was really cool to see. There still are Jedi out there. Whether Wookiees or not. It was really kind of sad for him to go back and not really have his village, but he was kind of like adopted, within the village, which I thought was kind of cool. But I mean, still, dude, I can't get past Omega. I swear, I want to, but I just can't. I can't. I'm like, it just tear my nerves up.
I want to take her little blaster bow away from her because
And
it's
just
so
put
cool.
Kirk on my-
And no, I want to keep it because it's cool. I love the concept of the weapon. And just never give it back to her and just lock her into a corner because it's so irritating. Every single week, she is the problem of every single show, and it's so irritating.
Yeah. I'm not a major fan of her. I think that here's the thing. I think that they could do a lot with her, and they're not.
Or either they're waiting. Maybe
Yeah.
they're waiting.
For what? For episode 19 of
I don't
season
know.
2?
Maybe they'll be like this big
turnaround moment.
Hell if I know. I'm trying to throw something out here. I'm just trying to throw something at the wall, make it stick. Because honestly, right now, I just don't know.
She can end up being the Bobetta Fett of the whatever storyline that you're going to come up with. The simple line of her being the last clone is pretty amazing. What they're doing with it, they're showing you that she's empathetic, blah 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 blah, and everything else come with it. I don't disagree with it. I just don't like the show is clearly not targeted towards us. I mean, just the fact that I'm a Star Wars fan means that I'm watching it, so that's quite a bit in itself. To turn around and be completely happy with it, I'm not sure I was ever going to be that person or that way. I was more excited by getting Gunji in the show because when he was in, I believe, Clone Wars and watching that episode with all the little younglings, I mean, that was a cool little thing for them to go through and find their kyber crystals, build their lightsabers, and it was a nice little arc that transpired. So you pulled that back, but then you also had Trandoshans with separatist tanks, which none of this stuff made sense. They're wrong with the Empire, and I'm like, it would be like this though. Post big war, when everything is being taken over and things are changing, it would be like this. There'd be so much confusion and not a whole lot of real clear definitive lines. It's repurposing of old equipment, blah blah blah. Like that part I got, but I'm like, I'm watching an animated movie. I gotta stop, or an animated show. I gotta stop and just not worry about it on that level.
What you're saying is, it's very serious and it's very realistic as to what would happen if something like this happened on a universal level or even on a planetary level. Which is all the more reason you don't bring a little girl who can't defend herself and always gets you in trouble to every mission. Just saying.
And real life wildfires, apparently, because they're constantly talking about wildfires and having to put up wildfires. But you know what? Next week we get 2 episodes. It's going to be the mid of the season, so let's see what we get with 2 back-to-back episodes.
So let's see. Next week is 5 and 6, so there's 12 episodes this season.
7 and 8.
7 and 8. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
This is episode 6. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, doesn't seem like that we're that far in, but I guess we are. I don't know. Like I said, this is a good show. I like the Bad Batch. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so if it's Star Wars, I want to watch it when it comes out. It's just of the animation of Star Wars so far, this one's the one that's not really setting with me as well as everything else. I'm waiting for it to be tied into something because I know the timeline of the show. I know the purpose of these characters, and I'm not seeing that come into play. Like I'm not. I don't want this to be a pointless story. I guess. Like you can make a Star Wars story and make it not be in line with the Skywalker saga. That's fine. But if you're going to do something in that timeline, it needs to make sense. And for what we're getting right now, it doesn't make sense to me. Like it's just stories of people in between this time period. And maybe that's all they're going for. But I feel like with where you started and the characters you're using, there has to be some kind of tie into the bigger story of the Skywalker saga and Order 66 and everything they're going through with this time, So
we'll see. There's going to be overlap. The beginning of March, we get Mandalorian. And so you're still going to get like 6, 7, 8 more episodes of this show. And yeah, it's not going to be the first thing we talk about when the Mandalorian comes on because Mandalorian is going to just take everything else. Sure. There probably won't be any overlap. I wouldn't imagine. It's possible with flashbacks and all that kind of stuff. I doubt it.
Did you say
but backflashes? Yes. Yeah. But I'm curious because once again, like, dude, we're gonna stream right from Bad Batch to Mandalorian, and then we're gonna fall right into getting a full new drop of visions and stuff like that. So.
Oh, I'm waiting for Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's coming too. Like it's going to be a year of Star Wars. So, that's about it. We can move on to the next.
Move on. Well, we got 2 guests here, and I know they're both chomping at the bit to talk about these 2 shows. Well, at least one of these 2 shows. So we'll go ahead and knock out The Last of Us because I know that. Okay, I'm just going to start out real quick. I'm not going to give reviews or anything else, but I'm just going to give an overall thought. I enjoyed this episode. I have thoughts about it being somewhat of a filler, but doesn't mean that it was a bad episode. I have problems with people saying it's the best episode of TV they've ever seen in their life because that's what's going all over the internet right now. And while it was good, I've seen at least 25, 30 different shows with better episodes than this week of this show. Like the season finale of the second season of Rebels was better than this episode of the show. That being said, this was a good episode.
There have been Netflix shows better than this show.
Agreed.
Shut up.
So Tony, give me some thoughts, Tony. Like, what did you think? I haven't got new thoughts.
You guys go ahead and take this. I have not watched all of the 3rd episode, and don't worry about spoilers. Don't worry about it. I think again, this is coming in with an audience and momentum that it couldn't be bad. Like everybody wants it to be great. So
right. Okay. Well, Cody, I'll start with you then.
Hold on. I want to say one thing before we get too far. The episode started with the remembrance of Annie, and Annie passed away. Dude, like, if you know anything about this actress, she's been all over the place. If you're a fan of, like...
24.
She was massive in.
Mm-hmm.
We just watched Picard the last season. She was the Borg Queen.
Okay.
She has been all over the place.
She was
she passed away of cancer.
Vampire Diaries, which my kids...
At 45. And that's young.
You know what's wild about this is
how did she die?
She had cancer.
Oh no.
What's wild about this is my kid is a big Vampire Diaries fan, and I thought for I did not end up doing this Christmas present, but I thought it would be a good one. I started doing some research on it. Cameo, where you can pay people to like give you the little independent message. So I started looking for actors and actresses that were on Vampire Diaries, and I was going to get him to get a message for like Merry Christmas. And she was on the list. And then the next day, this was about a month ago, she was not up there anymore. And I looked and I was like, man, I don't know my son's going to like this girl. but I like her from 24, and she was on the show,
Yeah.
and I was just like, might as well get double dip here. And then I'm telling you, in like 3 days, it was just like no longer available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a sad story. She did the voice of Tess in the game, so that was that headed off. But at the same time, like as soon as I saw that, I'm like, whoa! Like before I even started the episode, I'm like, wait a second, she passed away. I didn't read news. Like she passed away that day, and they had the remembrance thing on that episode. So good for them for recognizing it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cody. Have at it.
So no, I agree with you 100%. I really enjoyed this past episode of The Last of Us, but it's not like the best episode of television ever made.
Right.
But I also hate that because it takes away from it being a really good episode.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm not.
Can we
normally,
start with the start, Cody?
with what the first episode?
No, of this past one, the 10 miles west of Boston.
What about it?
You haven't seen that?
What, the start of this episode?
Yeah, we were talking episode 3, right? I'm only one episode, but like I've watched the first. It starts the opening scene. You've not seen this floating around Twitter? It's even who's the guy that writes all the horror stuff? Stephen King goes, that's not 10 miles west of Boston. And 10 miles west of Boston has these big mountains in the background and this valley.
No.
You have not seen this? It's wild.
No,
It's like, I didn't know Bunkers Hill was actually Mount Everest back there in the background. Okay, sorry. I thought you guys, this is y'all's stuff. I thought you would have seen this. I'm gonna pull up a picture.
I didn't.
I'll show it. I got the show up right now. I'm gonna show you guys. Here, go ahead. I'm just gonna put this one still frame up here, and then you guys keep talking. I'll show you.
I mean, no. Listen, I'm not normally a fan of your traditional zombie horror type shows, but I really like this show, man, and it's unprecedented in my opinion because video game adaptations, they're not very good. Like most of them, they're just not normally very good. You know, I know most of us, we're big lovers of Arcane, and what Arcane was I had never picked that up. I don't.
Yeah,
there could be some.
What do you mean you never been? I mean, you got to be accurate.
I've never been to Boston once in my life. I have no idea.
There are a lot of people that live in Boston.
It's
like West. It's like the last of the Mohicans out there.
I figure it's 23 years later or something like that. I'm not, or 20 years later. I'm like, well, I don't know.
Look at that background, bro.
It's beautiful.
Bunkers Hill. I didn't know that was what they won the first Battle of Revolution at.
I didn't know.
It's like summer in Boston because no one's wearing, like they're wearing some light ass jackets.
Like they look like they're in Canada, dude.
In 20 years, we've probably destroyed the world with global warming. So it's probably
and made mountains.
That's how this whole thing worked. That's why we're here.
Sorry, I thought that was a big discussion. Stephen King got on the internet.
I didn't know that's what I walked into.
But I mean, no, I do like a lot of what this episode did, though, because it gave you a bit of story hint about Joel that, I forget the name of his girl, but the girlfriend that he goes to visit the house with, I believe Tess, Tess is her name. And I thought it was a great episode. Normally whenever you put a gay couple, especially in today's world, people think that they go again, they're pushing the woke on us. This is a part of the agenda or whatever. But it didn't feel like they were beating you over the head with it. It was a good love story about a guy who was ultra prepared for the world to fall out. It did fall out. He found love at the end of the world, and it was a good story, man. But I like the dynamic between Joel and Ellie. I think that as you're going to continue to go forward, you're going to see that connection between the two of them continue to grow. And as someone who has played the game, I'm excited about that because this entire episode, the same guy is in the video game, but they did not go into this kind of detail about the character in video game. So now they're taking some creative liberties that wasn't a part of the original story.
Which you
and I
have to
like-
do that with any video game movie.
Yeah,
So I
you
think
do.
that any of the people that say that like are worried about how close a script sticks to a game story are don't think about like what it takes to turn something into a real story. You know what I'm saying? Is there are story elements to video games, but you're playing a lot of it too. Like we're not there to learn about the kid's childhood, but so much just to know a little bit enough to make the game make sense so I can progress.
Mhm.
So I think that you have to take these liberties like this and give freedom to the story to have depth.
Well, and I will tell you, one of the coolest thing about video games like this nowadays is you can go online and you can watch the YouTube cutscene movies. Because you take all the cutscenes from these video games and put them into a movie, it's usually like an hour, hour and a half, and it's a really good story. You know, minus the stuff you do in between the battles, the stuff you're doing playing the game. The story itself is a really good story. So, I mean, I don't know why more games are not better or more well adapted to the movie or the big screen, but there have been some good ones as of recent. Like I like the new Mortal Kombat movie. I thought it was pretty good.
Uncharted.
Uncharted was pretty good. You know, there's a God of War movie coming out pretty soon, isn't there?
A what?
There's a God of War movie coming out.
Yes. Well, it's in the works.
I think that might be pretty good. So
Hitman.
you can tell really good stories with these.
The past couple of weeks, the point that I made was that we've grown up with video game movies and mainly movies, not a whole lot of TV shows. What has changed is that they have invested a lot more in the storytelling aspect, in the actual creation of the story of the video game, because video games are not like they used to be. They're not all side scrollers or two people sitting next to each other fighting. It's all this massive world that you have to create in order to bring these people into it. And then you can either decide to just play by yourself or play with other people. You get to choose, have a friend or not. What really makes the difference is that story. And now we're in that time to where all these things are going to come to the screen, and they're coming with a story. You know, when I was we went to go see the Mortal Kombat movies. We went to go see Street Fighter. We went to go see all these things, Mario, like all of this stuff in theaters.
The new Mario movie looks great, by the way.
Unpopular position here. I think Street Fighter was a great movie.
In the day, it was.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Street Fighter.
I love it. I'll watch it right now.
When they said JCVD was going to be in there as Guile, I'm like, what?
I know.
But that's what really makes the difference of where we're at now with these stories. Right. What you can actually do, and what I think that this week's episode of The Last of Us has really shown us, is that it's my favorite kind of bottle episode, because they literally took the story and they end capped it with Ellie and Joel. But what they did was it gave you a story within the story that helped to get you from one point to the other. And it did it in such a way that it was completely emotional just watching it, because so many people know someone who could probably be a prepper or / survivalist. So many people know a story about a zombie apocalypse. So many people know all these different types of stories, but see it in a totally different way. And what you've seen in this week's episode of like the moment where they share like the strawberries, the moment where they're just like from beginning to end, it's full of humanity, I guess, is really what I want to say.
One point that I want to go to Sarah.
Vignette.
Good. Vignette.
To me, it was because
Good.
I was kind of uncomfortable watching this. And I think it was because of the intimacy, is because you're taking this one aspect of, like I said, you have this survivalist, and it's kind of like you said in the end, it's like, what's the point of going through all this if you don't have anything to, fight for, anything to live for, something, because, he basically protected Frank. So, I mean, it was like, you see all they go through, and you're like, you're in this apocalyptic world where you're like, there's really nothing out there. I think the funniest part to me is when Frank was out there, he's like, I want paint. I want to, paint the, I want to, redo our street. Just, this. And I'm just thinking, wow, out of all the things that are going on right now, it's, you still have that level of humanity where it's like, I still want things to look nice. I still want things to because have people coming over, and it's like, people, who the hell's going to come over? And next thing you know, here you have Tess and Joel. So it's like,
Mhm.
Well, finding like normalcy and chaos,
absolutely,
or instead of just complete despair.
Right.
right.
Well,
It's so easy to go to ground and just like I said, to go in that survival mode, to just survive, but not to live.
Not to
Yeah.
live.
That's
Yep.
where it kind of, he kind of went from, that aspect. So it was, I felt like it was a critical part because it kind of,
Why the hell is he?
is
think she
to
froze
live.
up.
And maybe that way, Joel can create another, or kind of go that extra level with Ellie, instead of it's just get her from point A to point B. Okay, maybe, we can actually interact, and it's, more than just getting from point A to.
No. Sarah's internet
Gross
acting up.
people and it's probably my internet's sucks
Yeah,
tonight.
you,
You cut out a little bit there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's dipping in and
Well,
out.
y'all got the gist.
Well, look,
Yeah.
I describe.
Also,
Oh, go ahead.
right. Oh no, I just wanted to say, I don't know if you guys talked about this last time, but there is a change from the video games to the show. So you remember a few episodes ago, they were telling you, like, if you stepped on the ground at a certain part, you could end up alerting a whole bunch of them like miles away.
Mhm.
And that's new from the video game, because in the video game there were spores, and you could get infected through the spores via the air. Well, in the game, you would put a gas mask on at certain times to make sure that you didn't get infected by the spores. But the showrunners said, well, it's not really good for live action characters to have large segments where they're in a gas mask and you can't see their face. They can't emote, all this other stuff. So they changed it around to, make it where you'd be able to see their face more often. And I do like that, though. I like some of the changes that they have made. And part of the reason why I feel like everyone is liking this show so much is because you're finally starting to see the intimacy and the deep levels of connection that video game characters can introduce you to. But you just needed the right story to tell to really show what it's capable of. And yeah, there have been a lot of good, crossovers with games, but none of them have been like critical successes. This one feels a lot different than anything else because you have high level acting, high level production, and a story between two people that is, it's worth caring about.
Do you
that
think
first
that
episode
part
was powerful.
All right, so I want to agree with you in some ways, but I feel like you
But I
are
can't.
No,
Yeah,
I
no,
can't.
you
I can't
don't.
agree with it. Can't agree with it. I just feel like we were hungry for a show right now.
I kind of
absolutely.
agree.
As a
I kind of agree with
culture,
you. That's
right? It's
part of
like
it,
it's
yeah.
like I mean, if you would, I've never played these video games, right? But I've played video games, so I appreciate the stories that can come from video games. So I thought, hey, this could give me something that is valuable, and we're just deciding to like it. And I was just ready for a show. I was just ready for a show, and I think this is just like, hey, man, we don't got what's the other show in the background? He's the House of Dragon to watch anymore. We need something that's got some sort of gravity to it that's not a Star Wars show.
I think that has a big part to do with it because timing of when movies and television shows come out have a huge part to do with their success.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't want to say huge, but they do affect the success of the movie when it comes out, what it comes out after, what comes out a week after that. So it definitely does. I think this one's a little different, though, because like most video game adaptations, like, okay, Halo, a great show. I enjoyed Halo, but I imagine the general audience, most people, when they see Halo in their screen, in their like pass by screen of whatever the streaming service they're using, would not go to that before they went to Last of Us, because it seems like Last of Us is more of a general audience type show. You don't have to be a gamer to enjoy.
Well, because any one of us could be in Last of Us.
True.
Not any one of us could be like a interstellar shoot 'em upper.
Exactly. And I think that people can relate to that more. That's why it relates to this show actually speaks to more people, because like I said, you don't have to be a gamer to like Halo. You could just be a sci-fi fan and see it and be like, "Oh, this is good," but it's not going to draw you to it immediately. You know, this show right here, I guarantee you, there are still a shit ton of people that watch this show and love it, and still probably didn't know until they read it online that it was a
game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's the difference. And I wanted to say too, Ross, I know when I first talked to you and Sarah about this, like I described this as a filler episode, and I still kind of feel the same way. But you described it as a bottle episode, and I think that's a more PC or better descriptive way to like put it. Bottle as far as filler. Filler sounds negative. What
do you fill a bottle with?
Well, bottle just means that it's like self-contained. And actually, I guess bottle might not be the best thing because it does have the beginning, the end that tie into the whole story. But that's kind of my thing. I watched it a second time after I talked to y'all about that, and I still feel like it's kind of a filler because the realistic aspect of it is this character in the game is dead, and you can tell this story of him doing this with a couple of phrases from the main character. And the story doesn't change. However, I like the story I got. I really do like the story I got. I just feel like the show put something out there to give us more time to be in this universe rather than progress the story completely as to what's going on. It did progress the story, but not like it's not something you couldn't just said, hey, we knew this guy. He was here. He was bunkered up in this. And we're going to go see him now. And it tied into the music. It showed you the code with the music and everything else, which is cool. But it felt like this whole episode could have been just nothing. And I don't, like I said, don't say I didn't like it. It just feels like a filler episode to me. You know?
I think that comes with your expectations. Because if you pay attention to anything else that you're a fan of, dude, take anything. Like, we're Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
How hungry were we for a prequel story? And then, like, we turned around and got something else. Like, it came at a totally different point in time. To me, this is a story about how we got from one place to another in one episode. And I say bottom line because that seemed like it was very much an open and closed narrative. Mm-hmm. And they included characters that came from the universe. And not only that, but it taught you. It didn't teach you. It gave you it shed light into what transpired into these people's lives daily. Not what happened in the world.
To the story beyond just the two main characters.
It does, and it does in a way
it does. It gives depth to a story without kind of progressing it. You know, that's kind of what the purpose is.
It's almost like a necessary storytelling device to make not this exactly. You have to put something in there that isn't just A to B point, get you from one point to the end. You know, is that like that's the difference between like I guess like a short story and a book. You know, there's going to be things in there that you say you could have omitted and we still get the same storyline, but it gives it something. It adds a dimension to it that gives us a window beyond just the two characters journeying to wherever they're going.
How many times did Walking Dead do this? And I mean, you can talk about the difference between a zombie infection and a fungal infection, and like there are totally different things. It is the same thing, but I love the fact that they tell it in a totally different way. I love the fact that they are able to give it a different. There's just enough different that the same rules don't apply. Not all of the same rules apply. But what all I'm trying to say is that there are countless things that you've gone back and actually witnessed. Look, another thing that's coming out, we like the Terminal List. The Terminal List is getting a prequel series. All right. Okay. It's not needed. It doesn't do anything for the story right now. Now, if you go back and you watch it whenever it comes out, it may do something for the story. You never know. Good point. Yeah. There are countless things. And so, like, for me, I didn't go into this episode thinking that look, this show to me, I don't have an endpoint in my brain. Once again, didn't play the game. Number two, even if I did, I don't go into content with that. Like, I can't go into content with that because then I'm coming in with a chip on my shoulder and I don't need that. Tony was talking about like all the things that are out that we're starving for a show. I can personally attest to the amount of crap that I watch day in and day out because I do watch a lot of stuff in the background. I do watch a lot of things I want to pay attention to. I knew this show was coming from a long time ago. I've been following it ever since they mentioned it in the beginning. I've been talking nonstop about how video games are going to be the next big thing when it came to streaming content. And so now that it's here, I think the show is literally just been given the story, been given the money and the passion and the right people.
It's gonna
to actually
work.
Come out with a good story.
If it fails, would be the weirder part. And can we
You're
get
right,
a Metal
exactly.
Gear Solid movie next, please?
Oh, I've heard countless,
Yeah, I
countless-
agree. Hell yes.
countless things about that.
What you know about Metal Gear Solid?
Shit, what you know about Metal Gear Solid? I'm playing
Exactly.
on
Literally
N64,
everything.
War.
I played every single one of them,
The
dude.
N64
That's my
Nice.
version.
That's
childhood.
awesome.
Or not N64,
Dude,
Super NES.
Metal
sorry.
Gear Solid 2
Yes.
is like in my top 5 of all video
Oh,
games.
love
know
Metal
that-
Gear Solid too.
Double disc back on PlayStation. Beat it when I was sick in high school. Like I was sick and I just had to stay home for a week and I just played this game. Like
Dude,
I
you
still
know-
can't hear that sound and not like have a moment, you know? Yeah,
Dude,
like there's just something about it.
that game pissed off a lot of fans because you played Raiden through so much of that game. Like the silver haired dude, people thought you were going to be playing Solid Snake throughout the whole thing. They got kind of pissed off. But it was a
well, I
great
think
game.
that actually is and I don't want to take you guys too far off, but I think that is the game that you guys, when you were talking about the storyline, games aren't what they used to be. Video games as like the side scrollers and stuff. Is that I think that was a Japanese game, and a lot of the games were, but they always had a larger storytelling dimension to it, right? Like when you played Metal Gear Solid, they had those cutscenes in 1996 that were like 2 minutes long, and that was the
transitional period.
Yeah, it was hard for American audience, I think, to accept that in the gaming world a little bit. It's like I was like, can we? But then you start to appreciate it, and that becomes an inherent part of video games. That's like one of the first video games in my mind that ever did that, where the story was important to the experience.
True. I think that now we have a lot more. What's funny is that I always believe that we keep getting to a place where we're a lot more, a lot less patient. We talk about kids that are, constantly watching all of this TikTok stuff, and it's all short and it's all faddish, and that's what how they want to consume their content. But when we turn around and we build video games in a manner to where it takes you like 160 hours to complete it.
Yeah. But that's very niche-y. That's a very niche-y group of people. Even though there are a lot of video gamers, there aren't as well.
I would love to disagree with that. You just look at how big things like Twitch and everything else are for people that are out there trying to make content on stuff like that. People spend a lot of time, streaming stuff and playing video games.
I opened up a Steam account and I've been playing Age of Empires like crazy for the last few weeks.
See, this is why the video game movies and shows will work. They will work.
Yep.
Like, I mean, they
might take over
will
the comic book movies,
because you come in with a group of crazy loyal people,
Mhm.
right? Is that they might not have the most numbers in the world, but they did give 160 hours to it.
Well,
And, those bugs are going to watch that show, bro. I promise you that.
But it's the double-edged sword, because with those viewers comes very high standards and expectations of what the story is supposed to be. And by the way, that's why Last of Us is so good, because you had a ton of fans of this series that were being blown away by, one, how good the acting is, and number two, for the most part, how closely the show has followed along.
Bro, it's 3 episodes in
the video game. It doesn't matter. You can go beat for beat.
You've already made your opinion.
Dude, that first episode is almost literally verbatim what happens in the video game. Yeah, rather than a few things with the daughter. And that's the thing. Normally, when you're taking a story from one medium to another one, a lot gets lost in the transfer. And
this is why shows are good.
A bunch of things. But
this is why shows are good, better than movies, because you don't have to make those
I agree.
leaps that are for sake of the, we've got the confines of a 2-hour
and
experience.
I would prefer 10 hours of storytelling over 2.5.
Like if this was a movie, this episode would not be in it.
No,
It's
not at all.
It's why the NBA playoffs are so much better than the NFL playoffs.
Oh, that is the dumbest thing
I'm
ever
just telling you,
heard.
because
They take 2 months.
up to 7 games a series.
Say that one more time. Say that one more
It's
time.
why the NBA playoffs are so much better than the NFL playoffs.
Oh no! What? No,
Just saying. I'm just saying because you get so much more. You get so much more than just 3 hours and it's done. 3 hours and your season's over.
But they're also not as consequential. And the NFL,
I got a lot of hours in the day.
Got
a lot of them already filled. So, here's the thing: I need to just go ahead and get to the good part. Is what I need.
Yeah.
I hear you. Damn, I forgot what I was going to bring up about this show.
Can you guys eat pho anymore? Or pho?
I could, yeah. Actually, I thought about getting some for lunch the other day.
God.
Yeah.
The whole wormy thing is gross.
Dude,
Yeah,
and the butt faces in the last episode were awesome.
I've had the kissing conversation with a bunch of people at my job because everybody at my job knows I do the show and they come to me whenever they have any questions or they want to talk about any kind of show. And the kissing thing is a big thing. Everybody wants to talk about that scene. It's a weird scene. I don't know how the game goes. It's an interesting concept.
Opened her mouth.
Yeah,
no,
she let it enter her.
Look,
it is
that is the moment where she has lost
she
control.
just accepted it.
I'm with
she
you.
has to,
I understand.
So, and then she likes the lighter, which she never had to do. So, and by the way, can I just say one fault of this show is, and I brought it up last week. You know how to knock the gas cans over. You know how to throw the grenades down. And if you're Joel and what's her name, and you're leaving there, and there's all the grenades, fucking take them with you. True. Are you serious? You need one grenade in all those gas cans. You have the same explosion.
Just what I say about all those cases,
gas cans.
All of the crap that's in those cases, you're talking about probably a good little armament right there, just sitting there.
I can't say I've never been in this situation, so I can't say that I wouldn't do the exact same thing. And look, I'm gonna go ahead and put this up here right here. Drew says that I am right about the NBA playoff series. You get more for your money with the NFL playoffs one and done. And I'm not saying I don't love the NFL playoffs, but it's like it's like a would I rather watch the Matrix trilogy or would I rather see 4 seasons of the Matrix? Like, I think you get 4 seasons of the Matrix and have some really good stories in there. So,
the Matrix trilogy is like 4 series. It is so long. If you sit down and watch, you're good God.
The end of that comment to me, Drew, is why the NFL is better because the stakes are so high in just one game.
That's not cross content, bro.
I know, but if your team loses the first game, it's like all right.
Let's argue about this show.
We got 3 more to get it right. But yeah, NFL is better. NFL.
Argue about the show.
So let's see, Sarah, give me some thoughts. I know that you were not one that wanted to watch this show, so I want to get your opinion going in 3 episodes. I know I've already what you told me about this episode, but are you enjoying this series so far? Like, this was something Brian made you watch. Are you going? If he stopped right now, would you continue to watch it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I mean, I'm just. I mean, it's cool, but I
think that's fair.
I'm not really invested in it. I mean, I was probably more invested in Halo, which is kind of weird because Halo was a game that he played and he refuses to watch the series. Because he's like,
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing about it, he's never played this game, but he's like, oh my God, it's so great. You know, you're adding this. I said, well, okay, let me ask you a question. What's the difference for this series to add in, more elements, but yet you lose your mind and are totally taken out when Master Chief takes his helmet off? Because number one, you've got to add more to the story than just what the game is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's sitting there, he's like, okay, fair point. But, still.
He's like, I love you, but you need to be quiet right now.
Stop talking.
Sometimes when I have a point. But I mean, and that's the thing about.
Hand me that controller.
Well, see, that's the thing about it, because the majority of games I haven't played them, but I've watched him play. So it's, so that's why I know a lot about, some of these, and that's why I was really interested to find out that he hasn't played this game, but he was so excited about, watching the show, which as a show unto itself, I kind of put it in kind of like the way Andor, in Star Wars. You don't necessarily have to be a Star Wars fan to watch Andor,
Mhm.
And I think that's the same thing with this show. You don't necessarily have to be a fan of the game to watch this show.
That's a good point. There's
But
actually
anyway, there's
But
chaos
bef-
in my house right now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're good.
before you go too far, I want to ask you one question because like this to me is kind of pertinent to the fact that I keep trying to make. Halo doesn't seem like it has the in-depth story that The Last of Us 1 and 2 both had. And so it's ironic and funny that you bring up that conversation with him and you start talking about how that one thing was massive. Don't take the helmet off. Don't do it. And like he did it. Master Chief took the helmet off in the show, and the show was trying to grow a story off of one that wasn't so massive and
the difference
widespread.
in this is there's better writing in Last of Us than there is for Halo.
True.
Halo didn't really have that in depth, but my whole point was just you're adding more than just what the game is. You know, you've got to add more elements to it. Because even with this episode, you know, yes, it's not in the game because I don't think you really have that much of the in-depth with those two characters. Because I think with Frank, it's you only really see one. There's like really no backstory, if I understand correctly.
I'm not sure. Hadn't played the game, but yeah, as far as I understand it, one of those characters, Frank or Bill, is dead, and you don't get a lot
Isn't that
of
right,
background
Cody?
with him.
Because you say
Yeah.
you played the game, but isn't Frank the only time you see him? Isn't he like a corpse?
Yeah, so he's literally he it's so different. He kills himself because he doesn't want to be around him anymore. Like it's very, very, very different. Dude.
You're so horrible. I just want to die.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
like
pretty crazy.
dude, it's literally kind of like that, and you never get to meet Frank. So or the the husband or whatever. But yeah, so I like the fact that they did take creative liberty and make this different. You know,
And that's the only point that I'm trying to make is that do you think that they because this is going to be very important going forward in a lot of things that we talk about. Do you think that they didn't have enough room in the beginning of a show like Halo to when they did take creative liberties, it got too crazy out of hand versus when you already have a pretty big story with The Last of Us established and then you're going to turn around and take creative liberties to turn it into a TV show. Do you feel like one is better than the other, or is there a problem with one over the other? Because I
just think
feel
Brian
like
was just mad. I think he was just mad the fact that they took off Master Chief's helmet too early, in his opinion. He can't get past that.
I mean,
But I'm like, how can you create a character when he just really is you're Master Chief in the game? So you've got to create that character.
Would it be okay at
Let
the
him-
end? Like, you know, if that was the series finale or season finale, like you just took it off.
That's what I don't get. I was like, because to me it'd be kind of stupid. Because are you going to run around with your helmet on all the time? I mean, what is he? Another damn? Is he a Mandalorian? I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean that's the only part that I don't get about it. Like to me, that wasn't a big deal because it advanced the story. That's what's important to me is to see what the story's going to do. I watch all the post scenes or the director comment stuff at the end of all the Last of Us shows. And I watched a bunch of it with Halo also. And Halo had they had tons of elements that they had to create a story from and a way to broaden the story that didn't exist. Whereas The Last of Us has so much story that they have to figure out how to work it and adapt it. And Cody brought up the one thing they always talk about, and it's always the big thing with the spores. I'm going to tell you right now, any person that's ever had to wear a gas mask longer than 5 minutes, it sucks.
It does.
If you've ever had one to wear one for longer than a day, you'll understand that it makes no sense. It doesn't matter what it is. Like at some point, you just want to like take it off of your face. Whenever you are going to try to create a story that has something like, I mean, spores are inevitable. Like the crazy thing about fungus is that it's everywhere. Like it's so massive in our world, the amount of coverage in the area, whereas it be air, land, or anything else, like it takes up so much space in our ecosystem. However, when you try to adapt a story, like what do you do with that? And them making that creative decision to take it out was the best thing they could have done.
Yeah. Well, and that all boils down to, a big difference between like Halo and this is you're looking at sci-fi, which doesn't have nearly as many rules in a drama. And two, they cut the Halo mask thing was the same reason they didn't put the gas mask in this show. You don't want to have actors not being able to emote. You want to see the actor's face. Honestly, Tom Cruise was supposed to be Iron Man, not Robert Downey Jr. He would not do it because he was only going to do it. He was only going to do it under the condition that the face mask was going to be clear, so you could see his face the whole time. And because they wouldn't do that, he turned down the role of Iron Man, and Robert Downey Jr. got that part.
Well, we got a good. That was a good fit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good fix. Yeah, good miss.
I want to comment on this. Two things on this is one, The Last of Us has an advantage over Halo, and I didn't play Halo, so I don't know enough about. I can't even comment on it. But what I'm saying is this: I haven't played either of these video games, neither. But I can comprehend The Last of Us storyline, like what it is, in just a moment. It's like, oh, post-apocalypto, cure for disease storyline. I'm in, right? I have no idea what Halo's storyline is. Like, you have to, I guess, explain a larger story of an unknown. So that's a greater.
The point I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
good point.
A greater challenge. And I had one other one. Oh, the adaptation thing is that just because a game and a story is good doesn't mean that all the time it's realistic. Like, as you know what I mean? Like how can we make, like you say, that's a relentless. It's like there's sports like that. Like, you can't breathe then. Like, there's nowhere you could exist in this world and be safe if it was like that. And then the other thing that you were talking about with the fungus, that's kind of wild. Like Greg said, is when something comes out can be helpful to its success. There has been an insane amount of talk in the last year about mushrooms, fungus. Like, if you go on Joe Rogan, you go on these guys and they're just like, hey, it's the old. I heard one podcast the other day that they were talking about, like, we may have evolutionary evolved from mushrooms. And I mean, like, this is a current discourse. So the fungi thing fits in perfect right now.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that because, like, after the show came out, like, this has been a game, and the concept of this game has been out since the game came out, but it's not really been a big deal. The show and the popularity there's been tons of people asking, can this really happen? Right. So I've actually heard on different shows that I listen to, scientists ringing in on this. Right. And I think it's so funny because, like, the scientists talk about it and they joke about it. I'm like, haha, yeah, this and that. And the people that are interviewing them ask them, be like, so, like, realistically, like, 1 to 10 scale, what's the odds of something like this happening? And they joke, they're like, seriously, like a 1 or a 2. A 1 or a 2. That's a 10 to 20% chance this could happen. You're telling me that people freaked out when COVID killed 1% of people that got it, but a 10 to 20% chance of this happening and nobody gives a shit?
And that was actually happening, though.
The thing is, you would need the fungus to evolve very, very fast to be able to withstand a very high level temperature.
And that's the exact argument that you can make about what Greg's trying to say, because you would need that to work. But in the real world where we have something like COVID, it is adapting that fast. It is evolving that fast, and it's actually having real life consequences. Yeah. But you're right.
I just think that the likelihood of it getting to the point where, I mean, I know they say global warming, and it's a great premise. Like, I love what they're doing, but even
no more ride sharing, dude. Let's kill this planet.
Even with that, the ability for it to be able to evolve to withstand that high of a temperature that fast is what I think makes it unlikely.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I do love the premise more than the normal zombie shows.
Absolutely.
Because
it is a normal zombie show, dude. It's no different. It's just the way the zombies got created.
I like that they're not dead.
Living
they're not
people.
dead. No, they're not dead.
The fact that they still live in those bodies.
But can they be converted back?
They are in.
Is the question.
I mean, is there a fundamental difference between a zombie and that?
I won't spoil anything, but no.
Like, how fundamentally different is a zombie? So what do you call these people then? What are they?
Well, clickers is the first stage. There's like all different stages of them. Like, they're not really called just one thing. But
well, even when they get to the final stage, what is it called?
Nightmare Fuel.
Yeah,
there you go.
I mean,
not the undead. How about that?
Is it a vampire?
No, they're not.
Is it a zombie? Is it a person? Is it a dog? Like, what do they become?
I think
they're zombies, dude. They're fucking
not
zombies.
Zombies low.
It's a
and they're
parasitical
dead.
infection. It's totally different. Like
those
I say
parasites-
totally different, but
Well,
like
isn't a zombie ultimately the same thing when you just pass it by them
a
biting
viral
you?
infection completely changes the chemical makeup of the body. Like that's the
now we're
biology of this.
splitting
thing.
hairs.
I know.
Bacterial, or it's like,
You
do you
wanna talk
treat
about
this with
having something-
penicillin or do you treat this with
Having something grow outside of
okay.
your body is different than decomposing flesh.
So
Like they morph
Okay,
into
we're split.
different
I think this
things.
is splitting hairs. I just
we're-
what
we
else
were
do you
nicking-
call them other than a zombie is what I want to know. What do you call? So you just go, that's not a zombie. If I was walking down the street and I said, watch out for that thing over there, I said, watch out for that zombie, you'd be like, nah, that's a clicker.
Yeah, we're nicking.
Is that what you
pits
say?
for-
Like that's all I'm saying.
nick.
It's a zombie.
Infected.
We're picnicking.
Infected. Okay,
We are picking nit
infected.
here
All right.
because, like, here's the thing: if that's the case, where if viral infection means it's not a zombie, that means the entire movie, I Am Legend, means those aren't zombies. It's a viral infection.
Well, technically, a
That's-
zombie is a reanimation of a corpse.
That's what I'm trying to say. Look, here's the you want to talk
Okay.
about
Great
nightmare
conversation.
fuel. The only thing that makes a difference is that you can go on to any Nat Geo or whatever channel and you can watch all these videos about the bugs that have a parasite live in them. You know, the ant scenario to where like the ant is completely taken over by a parasite that lives in its body. It's still alive. A fungal infection is not like a parasitical infection, only in the aspect of like it's impossible to actually pull out the fungal infection. But when you start talking about like a viral infection, that becomes totally different. I'm not trying to split hairs. All I'm trying to say is that it's more scary because it's actually real. It
That's
just
what I was
hasn't
going to
affected
ask you.
humans.
What's scarier, a zombie or this clicker thing?
The parasite infection is a lot
Okay.
scarier
Yes.
than a viral infection because COVID is a viral infection.
And that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Is like you see, like once again, these scientists were just joking. 1 to 2 of a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's 10 to 20%. For me, that's a big fucking deal right there.
But
Like,
we'll die from viral infections way before we will die of parasitical infections. As a race, as a humanity.
So this isn't
exists to
scary
this day.
then.
I don't know. I've seen parasites and they scared the living shit out of me.
okay, so we've broken down a lot of stuff about what we love about the show, what we hate about the show, but let's break down this episode a little bit. We can talk about it for a few minutes and then we'll hop on to Hunters here in a little bit because we're going a little long. Let's break down some things about this episode. Like, Ross, I know you are a big Nick Offerman guy.
Absolutely.
So his performance in this show, what do you think?
I thought it was crazy that you get to see him be a survivalist in the Boston area to turn around, or I'm assuming Bostonish area. Lord knows where he was actually at. But in the Northeast to turn around and have such established spot right off the bat. You know, he had a basement under the basement. He was waiting for them to leave. You can talk about storing guns all you want to, but really, I mean, he didn't need guns. He had way too many for what he was actually going to use them for.
Oh, yeah.
He used ingenuity and everything else he actually had to create
Booby
all
traps.
the stuff that he ended up with. Exactly.
He Home Aloned them.
He did. He did.
Yeah.
It was real cool that he took the town in itself and not just like his own little personal spot, but he took the whole town, which is what you need. You need resources. From an actor point of view, it was very the fact that you see him break down to be the man that he feels that he is when he's talking about there wasn't a woman and that, you know, he's going to enter this relationship with Frank, to see him to shake and be so afraid of something because now he doesn't have to be afraid, but like the societal structure that he grew up in taught him, you know, like all that shit's not like cool.
Right.
Like you shouldn't be gay, blah, blah, blah. You see that struggle in his acting and every bit of it, in the way that he moves physically and what his eyes are doing. But then you also see the care that he takes into putting in everything, the food, the pairing, the wine, all of this stuff. And so I think that the way that he portrayed that character was awesome. I thought that I didn't feel at any point taken out from Nick Offerman's performance.
Okay. I agree. I think he did a great job. I love the opening scene, or kind of the opening scene of when he first kind of has the whole town to himself, and he's riding around in the S10 and everything, and that's exactly what I would do. I'd be pulling in the parking lots and screeching tires. I don't understand the boat thing though.
The trailer.
Like,
The trailer.
Okay, yeah, I guess he used the boat as a trailer. Is what it was.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess I get that. But beyond that, I just didn't really. I was like, what the hell's the point of the boat? But and Cody, I want to ask you. You played the game. Is that blue and white S10 a part of the game?
Yeah. So originally, what you mean the truck that they're
The truck,
driving
yeah.
off in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole arc of the game, like that part, is where you get that truck. So it was a kind of cool little callback that you still got the truck that way. Like they still basically got it in a similar fashion. But yeah, you end up meeting him to get the truck later on down
Okay.
the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, what do you think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cody.
Well, I'm gonna get my final thoughts, and I'm probably about to jump off here. You know, 4 hours of podcasting.
I hear that. Yeah.
Tucking you out, but no, I like this show. Like I said, I'm not really even normally big into the survival horror type of shows, but I mean, I do like the show. I think it's trying to do something different. I like the direction that it's moving in, and knowing some of the stuff to come, it's gonna get pretty insane. So I'm loving this show, and yeah, maybe in a couple Fridays I'll come back on and recap it with y'all.
Definitely, man. You're always welcome.
Talk about it. Yeah, man, loving the show. But yeah, love y'all. Everybody like and subscribe if you're still, and Squirrel Nation, peace and love.
Oh yeah, get down, brother. I'll talk to you more.
Later,
Later.
Katie.
All right, Sarah. So, give me some thoughts for you. What did you think about this episode? Like anything stand out specifically to you?
Well, like I said, I kind of agree with what Ross was saying, especially with Nick Offerman and his acting. It just shows, how tough he was, as far as like had this shell, but yet he still was able to show that vulnerability of letting somebody in and just kind of being his authentic self. So yeah, it was really interesting. Like like I said, it was a very intimate type, because I mean you saw very intimate scenes. Especially with the strawberries, because I was like, yeah, it's like, don't roll in the strawberries and mess those up. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Just that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was really interesting to have, this type of episode in a show in, like I said, that apocalyptic setting, because it shows like there are still real people, still living real lives, even though shit is just going crazy right now.
Yeah,
So,
what do you say? But 20 years later, how do you reflect that? How do you actually give that how do you give that time lapse a human vibe? I guess
Right.
because the first episode with his daughter it felt real. You felt that relationship. You felt the struggle. You felt the mentality that a father would go through, especially as a single father. But turn around and actually you do all these other things. But when you make that jump for 20 years, like. How do you justify that? There's so much storytelling that you have to do. The way they do this is through trickling down all of these wonderful side tangents, and that's why I don't feel like it's a filler episode as much as it is. When you say filler, I get a negative connotation with that. I think that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that filler negative connotation to be here, because I feel like it's filling me in. It's not just filler. So when I get filled in, I'm happy. When it's just a filler to carry me to the next one, I'm not happy. And those are two totally different things. Exactly.
It is. And honestly, it's why when I went back and rewatched it, I kind of have a different opinion of it. Not really. I mean, like I said, I still feel like it's kind of a bottle episode, but I get what you're saying, because we do get, like, I got the purpose behind the radio code. I got the reasoning why they were doing that. I found out why. When him and is it not Ellie, the girl, the little
Tess.
girl,
Tess.
No, the young girl, Tess.
Ellie's the little girl.
Ellie, okay, Ellie.
Yeah.
When she heard the radio code and he woke up and he said what was playing, and then you realize in that moment when he realized what was playing, that's why they had to go to the house, because when he got there, he said it's playing on a loop. Like If he doesn't update it every so often, we
Mhm.
know there's something wrong and it's playing a loop. And it was cool to see those aspects. And you're right, that does make it a little different as far as it's not just a filler. It does have stuff that ties into it.
It relates. Here, I gotta
Relates,
make 2 points here. Look, my bastard son in the chat, White Chocolate Espresso, he said I call it a side quest. And that actually is like in video games, there are little things you can do. They're unnecessary but related. And here's why you guys are both right here. Greg, it's filler and it's a storytelling device. I watched the first 15 minutes of this show when I was waiting to come on, and then I clicked through it and watched in tabs as you guys described it. I think I got it. Like,
Okay.
I think I understand what happened in this episode with this relationship. I saw the paint in the sidewalk scene. I saw them get old. I got it. Now I don't even have to go watch this episode. So you're both
And
right. It was good, and I didn't need it.
Absolutely, like you're completely right. But I mean, like just the level of storytelling they did in such a small, unnecessary part was ridiculous. Like I think that the love and attention and care that they
Like
put
they
into
executed it
tells
well.
you exactly. It tells you what they're doing with the rest of this, and that's what I love. When you put that much care into a non-essential part of the story, then I can only truly imagine like what the rest of this is going to be. How are your highs and your lows going to be? Because if this is a low, like fuck me, dude. Like I'm in for the give me the highest of the highs. Let's see what they're going to do. I'm here for every bit of the story.
Yeah, I agree. As long as it's done well, they can do a filler like that and be just fine. You know, it's fillers like we're experiencing right now in Bad Batch that are different, stuff like that. You know,
Right.
This was done well. So even though, like I said, I wish I had a little more progression of the story. I've got more episodes to come out, and I'm sure this is going to another season. So I've got a lot more.
It's guaranteed. I'm pretty sure at least 2. Yeah. I feel like I said last week, that you can go 5 or 6 and have no problems. But when this show came out, it was billed as the gap filler for all of the Game of Thrones spinoff shows that they were going to create. So this is supposed to be the thing that airs in between all of those.
We needed a show.
Yeah, well, HBO
or HBO needed a show. How about let's put it that way?
HBO wants to continue the rule of the Sunday night,
it's
prime
a good time frame to own.
So
it's a good time frame to own, to be honest with you.
What amazes me is they came out with it while we're still NFLing it up on Sundays. You know, I mean, like because NFL typically rules Sundays. You got Sunday night NFL game.
It is slowing down right now. There's only one.
It is,
more,
which is why I'm amazing that it didn't wait a couple weeks.
Or actually, maybe you get a little momentum and so you already established a group of people talking about it, and now people are going to have nothing to do on Sunday, so they'll go watch the first 3 episodes and be right in on 2 weeks.
And as long as that works out in their subscription base, I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do.
Right.
But they're going to air an episode when the Super Bowl airs.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
I'm not super crazy about the Super Bowl, so like I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
Okay.
I think,
is it risky or is it not?
Well, the good thing about it being on streaming is, like, I know me personally, I generally don't watch the show till Friday right before we record, and not because I'm not super excited. Because one, I want to give my wife as long as she can to be able to watch it with me, but when she doesn't, she's not able to. I like to have it fresh in my mind when I'm watching it that day, you know. So, I'm not a big guy. Like, I've got to sit down Sunday night at 9 o'clock when it comes out and watch it. Now, I know a lot of people that are, and it's fine, it's cool. But I always have something going on that I'm not able to stop what I'm doing and drop over this show. And the beauty of streaming services, as opposed to cable like we had back in the day, till they came out with DVR. So, is there anything else, scenes, specific characters you want to bring up about this show?
All I want to say is I think that it was very pleasant not knowing the Bill Frank story to actually have a character show up, get found in a hole, and not want to turn around and shoot the other guy. I'm not saying that he had to love and grow into a relationship with the other guy. I'm just saying it's really nice seeing humanity in the good light and not the negative light.
Isn't the irony of that what Cody told us is that that's not what happened in the game? He actually just killed it. He's like, I'm trying to be around it.
Screw you, I'm out.
Or just after 30 years, you're like, man, you've had it.
I like I said, showing that humanity, giving somebody benefit of the doubt.
Show about marriage if we end it like that.
Hey, look, one episode in and out. I know I'm happy with what I got, regardless of like how much it filled in time or didn't. I think that it was real cool seeing you're seeing Joel really adapt to being back with the kid after 20 years of like negativity in his life after watching his daughter die in his arms.
Mhm.
And so you get to see the other side of him coming out, and it's the side that he suppressed. And it's always fun watching that storyline unfold in anything. I think it's, I'm a sucker for like true empathy and stuff like that, things that don't exist in the real world anymore. So I'm a fan. I like it. I want to see where it goes.
What a great segue.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm interested to see the oh my gosh, my dog is
True things that don't exist in the world. They've been assassinated.
Oh,
I'm interested to see where they go in the future with this as far as the relationship between Ellie and Joel, just because it's been a rough start for those two. And I don't think that either one of them is the easiest character to get along with. So I want to see how their relationship develops in the future, because I feel like through every episode, you're starting to get a little bit more of each of them. With Joel, you're starting to get a little more of, his story with Tess. With Ellie, you're starting to get a little more of like her life, just her getting in the car and being amazed by getting in a 2-door Chevy S10 pickup.
An S10 of all things.
what's a
seatbelt
seatbelt?
was.
Yeah.
The cassette player, like all that stuff. Like it's like it's cool to see that, and like I can only imagine that if you're a kid who's grown up in this world, when she saw the Mortal Kombat arcade game, if you're a kid that's grown up in this world and you know this stuff exists, but you've never experienced it, because before this, she'd never even gone outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's never even seen the light of day.
No, she had gone outside,
but not outside
like,
the complex.
Yeah, not outside
okay.
the
that makes sense.
QZ,
but,
whatever they called it.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see that, and I think the actors are doing a great job portraying that, and I want to see how their relationship develops in the future, because I don't know their relationship in the game. But from the first 2 episodes, you would think they're not going to work out at all. And I feel like both of them are at the point where something's got to give, and they've got to just work together and move forward in the future. So it's going to be fun. I'm waiting for her to get a gun.
Ellie's coming on a little. Well, she has one now. Ellie's coming on a little strong for me. That's the only thing that I feel like I probably would have found a way to squash right off the bat. Like,
do you think that's writing or an actress choice?
I'm not sure, and I don't care as long as they make it work.
She can't be old enough to make an actress choice, like in real life. Like, imagine she told the director, she's like, "Nah, I'm gonna fucking be the dickiest kid there is."
I mean, she's 20 and she played a badass in Game of Thrones. So
okay.
I mean,
well, maybe. All right, that's cool.
She's 20.
She is annoying.
She can be.
I mean, but you know what? In her defense, she was chained to the fucking floor. I'd be pretty agitated too.
Yeah, like I'm not.
Like,
I'm not robbing
her for like a piece of shit. Like, so I have no problem with her being. Actually, you know what? I'd be an asshole too. I'm not even chained to the floor, and I'm one.
True that. That's what the real world does to you.
Well,
but that's it, man. That's all I got.
I'll say, do y'all have anything else you want to say about this week's episode of Last of Us, or what's going on?
You're 3 of 9, which means you are now a third of the way through this show.
Which is awesome, because I feel like I have so much more left, but wait in 2 weeks and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're almost halfway through. It's going to be crazy. But yeah, I'm liking the show a lot. I keep saying it's the new show that everybody's going to be gathered around the TV at 9 o'clock on Sundays, even though I'm not that guy, but I do love this show. This is a show that everybody's going to watch. Everybody's talking about it, at least in my circles. Everybody's talking about it. I don't know anybody who hasn't seen it. And I don't know anybody who doesn't have an opinion on it. Even if you think it's the best episode of television to ever be displayed, and you're wrong, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. So, very good episode, just not the best episode of TV I've ever seen. So, well, let's move on then. Sarah, do you want to stick around for Hunters? Or
no, I think I'm gonna jump off. I
saved it for last because I wanted to be able to give you the exit point. So
yeah, Bruce is getting a little antsy, and about time to put some kids to bed too. So
gotta run them up.
Sarah, you're missing this superior show conversation. By the way,
it's pretty good.
Oh, I'm sure I'll probably catch up on it at some point.
One day, watch it.
You'll be hooked. And
I think
there's only
watched
2 seasons.
Half of the first episode. So I kind of gotta push through it just a little bit, just to kind of get past all.
Go back to it. That's how I did it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, all right,
let me
Sarah,
take
where
this
can I-
dog outside before he drives me
right.
absolutely insane.
I hear
But,
you. Well, Sarah, as always, we appreciate you coming on. And where
yeah,
can
if
I find
anybody
you?
wants to chat with me or whatnot, you can find me on Twitter at My Lady Kitten. I'm around there, and like I said, with my fellow Panther fans, we're just kind of just ride that wave, fellas.
Waiting for the
Let's
draft.
go.
That's right.
Let's go.
The third
All
right.
right, guys, y'all have a good night.
All right, you too.
See you,
All
Sarah.
right, bye.
Speaking of the Third Reich, even though I think
Right.
it's the Second Reich in Carolina, but
No, it would be.
the
Oh well,
sixth.
like his.
It's the
Yeah,
sixth Reich.
that's how I would describe it. I think Ross is right. Like, is the sixth iteration of a leader, but Reich
there you
has
go.
been here twice. It is the second Reich,
Yeah.
as in his second appointment,
Mhm.
and hopefully we won't get canceled by talking Jewish murder. Well, you know what? We're about to talk Nazi and murderers, dude. Murdering Nazis. Let's go
Dude.
get them. Everybody's on that team. Everybody's on team murder Nazi.
I have to pass, man. I can say Jew all I want to and not get in trouble. Just
You
saying.
do, you dirty Jew.
I do. I have the pass.
Are you
I-
Jewish?
That's right.
yes, I am. Well, I'm okay. So I'm of the Jewish
You're
race.
Hebrew.
Jewish is a race and a
Hebrew,
religion.
bro.
Correct. Yeah.
I know,
So
you're right. I have
my
a big
dad's side of the
problem with
family
this,
is
but
very Orthodox Jewish. I did not grow up that way. I don't practice. However,
Right.
if it's talking
you're a
about from
cultural
race,
Jew, not a
yeah, then I'm a
religious
cultural
Jew.
Jew. Exactly. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I get a big problem with this is that I get upset about this. I think we should say Hebrew,
okay.
but nobody agrees with me. So don't worry. No, like I mean, like I just think this is like because I always Judaism. I'm like, oh, are you like yeah, Bible, whatever. We're gonna talk about whatever holiday. It's like, oh, did you celebrate Passover? And you're like, no, I'm Jewish. I'm like, well, that's what I thought we were talking about.
Right.
So race, ethnicity, culture, all of these things, interesting. But that's the one term no one would agree with me. This though is that means both. Like you're supposed to that Jewish it just means both.
Correct.
They told me to stop arguing about it, but Hebrew, Jew, I get it.
So okay, so we have a show here. Tony, you recommended this show to me, and me and Ross checked it out, and I'm actually really glad I did. I just watched the series finale a couple hours ago, and I'm not gonna lie, man, the series finale kind of it tugged at my heart a little bit, man. It had moments where I kind of wanted to shed a tear. And
you want to talk about the single best episode of TV? I think that in the season finale to season 1 is like one of the most crazy episodes of reveals, twists. Got like I was blown away moments in TV.
Now I can agree with you on that it definitely threw me for a loop because I know you told me wait till you see the end of season 1, and it does raise a question for me. And this is going to be full spoiler, so we're going into it. So okay, this show stars Al Pacino, right? And Al Pacino plays this guy Mayor throughout the entire show. And
who's a leader of a vigilante Jewish group of superheroes that have diversified in their message of inclusivity by bringing in other helpers to their vigilante crew who are not Jewish.
Right.
And they go and they hunt down Nazi war criminals who have been living in disguise throughout the world, particularly in the United States of America and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's the kind of premise of some of it. And it follows this kid, Jonah. But let me tell you this, Greg. Hunters is the most unsustainable show that is fantastic. And this is why I say this, is that Hunters has the most superior the actors. They're so A-listers. They're A-listers. You know what I'm saying? Like you get Al Pacino in there. These aren't just like your people still trying to make. You've got some like proven talent in there that is way ahead of which you probably should have been able to court. If you look at who directed these episodes, these people are some of the most accomplished directors. And this is like, so they said, hey, Al Pacino, we're going to get all of these great directors and we're going to pound out this season. We're going to pay you $1 bazillion. We're going to pay them $1 bazillion. And it's going to be good. And it was very put together. It was well written. Like if you look at the titles to just the episodes, the very first episode is In the Belly of the Beast.
Yeah, I think
it's about Jonah the whale, the whole thing. I mean, like it's like if you just kind of start thinking about all the things that go into this show and you got the best actors, you got the best writers, you got the best directors. It's unsustainable for Amazon to make this show because it's going to just cost $1 bazillion. And the problem is that The Last of Us, this is why I wish Cody was here. I'd yell at him about this stuff. The Last of Us is a cheaper movie to produce, a show to produce. I think this is you have a group of people who you already have a fan base of. So you have a floor.
Okay.
You have a floor of what success could be. You have new actors. You don't have Al Pacino in this, right? You know what I mean? Saying this is that. And then the other thing is this, is that it's just ultimately more relatable to all humans. So like at the end of the day, is like, how far can you go with the Jewish hunter story? Number one, like how many years can we really possibly pull this out? It's just an unsustainable model. So what I think of is this is why it was perfect too, because they just said we're just doing 2 seasons. They really only wanted to do 1 season to start, and then they brought it back because of fan popularity, and then they said like, let's just end it in a nice, neat, tight way.
Well, I can agree and disagree with you on that, because I don't think they planned, based on the way this season ended, I think they had full plans to continue with another season. I think something happened and they got canceled, because the way this series ends, Jonah's basically being told there's no getting out of this. This goes on forever. Are you ready for the next mission? And I'm like, okay, cool.
There's a cap of how long you could keep non-Jewish people interested in this storyline, though. Well, at some point, but everybody gets to relate to the stupid zombie story. Like we all get that, you know what I'm saying? Because, and I love this, like, so I'm all in on the Jewish Nazi hunter storyline, but like, how long can popular culture really sustain that beyond 2 seasons?
All right, you got multiple points here. I got to hit on one right off the bat.
Get in there.
Amazon, shitty at putting out any sort of marketing for their shows.
Agreed.
Absolutely, 100%. Because Amazon Prime is not their primary business. They make more money from their e-commerce and from their AWS platform than anything else. Prime is a hobby for Amazon. I think,
and what a mistake by them too, to be honest, because they have that behemoth mass behind them that Netflix doesn't. So like if they just got competent on this end, it would be
consumer base.
Yeah. Like is it more surprising to ask if someone said, I don't have Netflix? If you ask them, do you have Netflix? And they said no, is that more surprising of a response than someone has said, do you have Amazon Prime? Not the movie service.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Like, dude, does Amazon? If you said I don't have Amazon, I would be more surprised. I thought everybody had Amazon and everybody bought shit on Amazon.
I can kind of agree with you on that. And it's funny because like I remember speaking to my mom, had to have been a couple months ago, and I was talking to her about a show on Prime. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, you gotta watch this. And she was like, well, I don't have Amazon Prime. I said, well, are you an Amazon subscriber?
You do.
She said, yeah. I said, so you get the free 2-day shipping? She said, yeah, I pay for that. And I said, well, guess what? You pay for the streaming service too. And I introduced her to Amazon Prime. I downloaded it on our TV, and she's been watching all kinds of
you're right. They're bumbling this, dude. They're bumbling, and they're trying to make a difference right now on Thursday.
Show is on there. The Expanse, I swear to God, is like the best damn show. Like it's amazing. And it's a sci-fi show. But that's the thing. But that was the other point I was going to make, is that you start talking about that this is an enclosed, encapsulated 2-season thing. I am firmly in the camp of believing that Amazon makes these shows when their production studio is behind it, that whenever they get to the 8, 9, 10 or whatever the ending few episodes is going to be, is like that is going to be possibly the end of everything. We can pick it up next season, but I want you to close it out under the guise that
it's a one-time. We want to make money. This is a one-time business venture with maybe, I guess, in theory, we could come back to it, but we need to make money on this.
It's the thing that like Netflix doesn't do.
It's a deal. Don't give you it's a deal. Here's the deal.
Yeah. And so when they came out with that second season, because we didn't find out that there wasn't going to be a season past the second one until this one had already been out for how many weeks?
Dude, the first season came out 3 years. I mean, it did hit COVID shit.
Forever ago.
It did hit COVID shit. I think season 2 was almost fan generated a little bit.
It may have been.
You want a little inside football on Amazon? A lot of the things they talk about are fan generated, and they keep saying that because it
Like they
really,
almost want to just quit Amazon Prime. Like they actually
Yeah.
don't want to do the streaming service, and people just like it enough. They're like, all right,
But
fine. we'll
some
make it."
friend of a cousin of a twisted stepsister of
Did
the
you see
dude
The
that's
Expanse on
banging the
Amazon
brother of Bezos' son, like he wants it, and like now all of a sudden they're bringing it back.
Yeah, they're at a sushi party, and some kid's like, "Hey, man, I really love The Expanse, dude." He's like,
That's how it got its last
I know.
couple seasons. Like
I
that's
know.
that's
I know
it's
fans
not
kept
even
that
done.
alive. Netflix
Yeah.
is the leader in that. Is the fan?
Yeah.
You know
Anyway,
what though? Amazon Prime does have some really good original programming. Like some of the shit, like they have some shows that just absolutely fucking knock it out of the park.
Can I-
Like, good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna keep with this hunters rant. I'm so passionate about this one thing
No,
with the
I'm gonna get
hunters.
back to that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is-
let's talk about it.
This is why I think is that unsustainable project here is that we spoke for an hour and 20 minutes on a video game show movie about somebody said the greatest, like, you know, it's like, first of all, I think that's exaggerative. I mean, whoever said that in the internet, like greatest TV, did they really truly mean it? I don't know. But I mean, you're throwing that around the word casually. And what I'm saying is this, is I would put the writing, the directing, the acting in this show like against anything and be like, hey, this is a good show. If I wrote this book, if this was a book I wrote and I put it up against the One of Us book, like, and you wrote the One of Us, I would be like, you know what? I'm just as proud of my novel. This is a good, it's just well done.
Agreed.
Well, I do want to say, number one, I haven't heard the phrase of people calling last week's episode the best thing on television.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard it until tonight.
You're not on
I don't-
social media.
I don't go in those circles of like
Yeah, Ross
trying
on
to
social
understand
media.
that.
It's all over
Twitter.
social media. Yeah.
I don't screw with that game. I don't. But the other side of my argument that I want to make there is that you have seen Hunters in its entirety, and you haven't seen The Last of Us in its entirety.
True.
So my take always is that there's always a difference in how you ingest something and then how you feel after you've ingested the whole entire thing. Because you made that comment earlier about the 3-episode drop and then week to week to week versus like watching a whole entire season. Like there are so many ups and downs to each of these scenarios that when you come to a point where you have something like The Hunters where you've now watched it in its entirety, like first, second season, a whole entire thing of a show, and you can truly appreciate every bit of it versus like something that's coming out right now in live action lifetime. So
I understand that.
I think that Hunters has a real good. You say
It's good enough for
story.
we should have been doing this the whole time. That's what I'm saying. It's a good enough show where we should have been like, did you see Hunters this past week?
I had Hunters in my list on Amazon and didn't even know it because I don't keep going back to the Amazon that much.
Because they don't do it well.
When you had brought it up in the chat, and that was one of those things where I'm like, oh, well, you know what? I'll finally get around to watching that. Like it's something that like I swear that I've seen before. And the episode before the finale, that whole bottle episode of
The old couple,
the
in the
house, the
Yeah,
architect.
yeah.
Which
I
was
swear
great, by
to
the way,
God,
yeah.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I swear to
The
God, I've seen
Mousetrap.
that
I
one.
mean, he's the
episode
inventor
before.
of Mousetrap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was look, is that I guess here is the thing is the Hunters continues to be unsustainable for this. This is where the way I describe it is when I told you guys about it in the chat. I read a good amount, right? So like, and I'll read books that are pretty good. Okay, like every book I read is not the greatest book I've ever read. And if I read this book over the weekend, I would be like, you should check this out. It's not and I just feel like Al Pacino on his worst day is going to be better than anybody in The Last of Us in their best day. Like the whole, what is it? The Goebbels guy or whatever. The wolf, the doctor dude.
Yeah, the doctor. Yeah.
All right, so that final episode of season 1, when they reveal that Al Pacino is, you guys remember that movie Face Off?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
He is Face Off a Jewish Nazi killer, Jew killer face off. He has gotten plastic surgery to look like the guy that he tortured and then became that person.
But let me
And
tell
then
you,
he goes on and orders a hit on the woman he loves.
well,
So
Dude,
let
this
me ask
shit was
you.
crazy, man. That last episode of season 1 was wild, bro. Bananas.
It was. It definitely was, and it makes me ask questions too, based on season 2. So, like season 1, you get the whole story of the hunters and what they're going through, and Jonah comes into this storyline. You get his background. You know, he meets Mayor, and you go throughout there, and then at the end, you find out Mayor's actually the bad guy in disguise the whole time.
Yes.
The second season is flashbacks of how all of them became hunters, which is cool. That
Which
you're
is
able
awesome,
to write,
bro.
Yeah, you're able to write Al Pacino back into that story,
Which is a crazy
cool.
writing. Think about that. Do you know if you said this is like if we made a story and we said at the end of it, they did this in Heat. I just read the second Heat, the movie Heat. You guys seen that? It's like one of the greatest movies. I just read the book. Michael Mann wrote Heat 2, and it's really cool. If we could do that in theory on the screen, it would be awesome. But the problem is Al Pacino's too old now. He's been killed off. Right. And he dies in Heat. We can't do the flashbacks because Al Pacino's too old to play even anywhere in it.
Himself,
and they were
in that
so
movie.
able to bring Al Pacino back. Imagine being tasked as a writer at the end of season 1 and say, oh, this is how the season ended. Al Pacino, our greatest star, who could come in and take a nap in the damn episode, be great, died. We did a big reveal that he was actually the devil incarnate, the bad guy. And now we need you to find a way to work him back into the show 2 years later,
Right,
on
with a
his
face.
busy schedule in a way that makes sense. And
Well,
they did it, dude. They fucking did it.
They did a great job of it. My only question is, going throughout this whole series,
I would have quit. I would have been like, I don't know how to do that, bro. Can I get Al Pacino's autograph?
Well, my question is throughout the whole series: is he a bad guy or a good guy? Because, like, I get
He's the worst person in the world,
no,
Greg.
I get that he's the wolf, right? But his entire life for the last 30 years, he's been fighting the cause of hunting these Nazis. So, like, is he a bad guy like that decided
He's the
to turn
worst
good?
dude.
Or is he just a bad guy that in the end it didn't work out the way he wanted?
He's the most psychopathic, sociopathic Dexter in the history of the world, because he just said this. He was like, I was a Nazi, not because I even cared about Nazism. I just like killing and fucking torturing people.
Yeah,
and now that those guys lost, I'm just going to trade teams here and go on kill and torture run. There was a scene in season 1. There's a scene in season 1 where Jonah, I think, is killing his first kill or something, and they show Pacino in the background, and you don't know it at that moment that he was, and I think they flash back to it later in the end of season 1, and you realize, oh shit, he's not Al Pacino, Jewish killer. He's Nazi posing guy. Right. And his face is like, and there is like he's like on a drug in murdering people.
Yeah.
He's worse than Hitler in this movie. Think about this. How can you be a character who is worse than Adolf Hitler? And that is the fucking wolf.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's worse than Hitler just because
he killed the woman he loved because he didn't want to get caught.
He didn't love her.
Hitler killed 11 million people. So I mean,
he infatuated over her. He was something. She was important to him. That was so strange.
Because Ruth was important to Meyer. Like that was the whole thing. And like that's
it was all part
almost
of the heist,
like it was, huh?
It was all part of the heist, right?
Like it felt
no,
like that,
I thought it was about her. You think it was about the guy, Meyer?
But they did have a kid together, correct?
Meyer was supposed to have the kid with Ruth.
So
that was always really
the wolf. The wolf took over afterwards. Look, I don't want to. Tony, I'm going to piss some Wheaties, and I'm totally sorry for this.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I liked Al Pacino in the first season.
Okay.
I can't say that I read on the wall in the first half of the episode, but the second half of the episode, I started to fall in the camp that he was definitely not who he was saying that he was. I've watched.
So you caught up? Well, okay, yeah, we definitely
Yeah.
knew there was something suspicious. Like, I mean, you could have thought some nefarious motives, but I thought, man, that's a crazy. It's
I
kind
actually
of
thought that
almost,
he
like,
was more than the
unbelievable.
wolf. I thought he was above the wolf, and he was trying to give them something to go after. That's like my personal standpoint is that he was probably a CO to the wolf, and that he was trying to give them something to go after, and that he was exactly who he was, only higher, and he was trying to give them low hanging fruit to keep them going. That was my point of view. When it came towards the second season, I felt like they were right in telling a background prequel story with Pacino to bring him back. I like the evolution of seeing all the people. I just felt like it lasted way too long.
Oh, really?
I could have dealt with it up to the halfway point of the second season, and then really gave a reason why they needed to tell that story, and then let the Jonah story progress forward. The Jonah, Shava, like everything else.
I think season 1 was better than season 2. And I don't like to say that. Actually, I don't even need to qualify and compare them. I'm just happy there was a season 2, number one.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that Al Pacino was in it somehow. And I think that was a big pull off. And I thought it was actually better than I expected it would be. And then I did think there was a different feel to season 2, which is the Jordan Peele season. I don't think he was involved in the first. And I'm not saying that was a bad thing. It just is a different feel. You know, is like it almost felt a little more Tarantino. I won't say Tarantino-ish, but like the scene, I almost feel like some of the ways it was just filmed felt more 70s vibe-ish or whatever it was than season 1 did.
Well, I think they had a little more footing. And can I be honest with you, Tony? If you liked this show, and Ross, you may be able to back me up on this, I think you'll like Umbrella Academy. I kind of got
I've enjoyed Umbrella Academy. I've enjoyed them. But I mean, some of this appeals to me because I like action movies. I like this type of
too, right?
This is this is like a novel I would read.
A little bit of a period that takes you out of like, the day that you live in. Just enough. Like we keep doing it, so I'm gonna just go ahead and go down this route. Let's start talking about characters. You got Meyer Opperman played by Al Pacino.
Mm-hmm.
Al Pacino is Al Pacino. You're not like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's his best Al Pacino ever. I don't even care, man. It's like put him in the corner. I'm happy he's there.
You get this. Al Pacino is essentially wolf in sheep's clothing, literally. Playing the type of position where, like you said before, he's getting this whole group of people together that are going to try to come out and fix the problem that we have in this world. And the problem is that post World War II, what do you do with all the people that followed the 26-letter word that was Nazis? And so we're just going to call them Nazis. When you follow that sort of political point of view, what happens to those people? And they went one of two ways, I guess three. One way being the USA, two being the USSR, and three just disappearing, aka or dying. So what do you do with that? We use them as scientists, which is true. I've seen countless other things. There's another fantastic show, ironically on Apple TV, Greg, whenever you get around to it, is the space show. I'm blanking on the name of it. Either way, it's the whole battle between the USSR and the USA going to the moon, and they both use Nazi-era scientists. Yeah. Here's a show that you start talking about what do you do with all the rest of them, because you can't just take prisoners of war. You can't just take all of these people that were on the bad side and then just expect them to disappear. You're not going to stand them up in front of a gun
people
line.
Make business decisions too, in a way. Correct. And that is that this story is very important to these Jewish people, right? Like this means a lot more to Jonah's grandmother, Ruth, than it does to Billy from Oklahoma, who was involved in World War II. So like it shows that this story happened in a wave of geopolitical issues that you just don't care about the Jewish story. They're like, it's like 10 years later, if you're in NASA, it's like, oh, you're a good scientist. You know
and
what I'm
saying?
That's what
the finale did for me. The finale really brought it all back home and made you realize that, you know what, we live in a time now to where I can kind of relate to what they were discussing in that trial, and it's the falsehood and the super complex story that the Jewish faith has established against what Germany was trying to do at that point in time. Like, you're trying to say that we were trying to eradicate everybody. We weren't trying to eradicate everybody. You're just a Jew and you feel bad about it. It was a false narrative
there
that they
are
were
people
really
still
trying
denying
to portray.
it right now that the Holocaust
Very
happened.
much
But,
so.
but here is the thing: it also brings in a moral dimension, and the story becomes about them making the decision: or should you be a vigilante or not? Like,
True.
is that this might be the justified, right? Is like, and this is where they're, and I don't know how much they actually did, if they did enough of this in the story in second season. I think they took the easier route and just said, hey, let's make this about Adolf Hitler, bro. This is gonna be fun.
And it was.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
It was.
Season
It was
2
fun,
was
yeah.
fun because Adolf, it's like, hey man, we got this bad guy we got to go take down.
Mhm.
Right? We got this. You don't have to worry about some of those things. But they did try to do it with his fiance. They tried to
Right.
make part of this story is that, yeah, these motherfuckers suck. They Nazis that tried to annihilate the world. Yes, the world sucks because they acted like, well, that's just Billy over there. You know, like, I mean, but should you actually be killing people?
Right.
Like,
Where's
this
the
is
line
now
at this
about
point?
you. Are you becoming the wolf? Are you becoming those things? So there is an element there. I don't know if they did a lot of it I mean, they tried to, but they knew. They had said, man, this last season, bro, we got to make this about Adolf. And here, what's your favorite part of season 2? Like, I have one. Actually, there's 2, and they both involve Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, I would say my I could probably have 2 also. Like, I love the trial scene, the whole last episode. I absolutely loved
that's
it.
bananas too. Like, you're like, man, you are crazy as fuck, bro.
And it's not even him being on
that
It's
didn't
survival.
happen.
It's totally survival.
It's not even him being on the stand. It's a number of things. One, it's the justice system, and I look at this justice system, and they put him in a position in this movie or in the show where they have a Jew who's a defendant lawyer or defense lawyer.
I know. Well,
who has
they
to
tried to do
defend
it there
Adolf
too,
Hitler.
and it's just like,
And it's like, well, it just shows you the flaws of the justice system, like that, and like everything they go through with the judges during the trial. Like, this should be an open and shut case. Period. I don't care if it's 1979. This should be an open and shut case. This guy did this. Period.
it's Adolf Hitler, bro. Everybody, eyewitness. We got it. It's him. Everybody,
Like,
move on.
The testimonies and the actual scenes in that final episode, and I think it's called The Trial of Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
The last episode.
Yeah.
Like, I texted Ross and Sarah. I was like, I'm actually like emotional. Like,
Who was that actor? He was pretty good.
Like, well,
Who played
which one, the
Hitler?
lawyer?
Yeah.
He was good. Yeah. But like I could feel it, and like I'm not going
Udo
to call
Kier.
back and claim because I'm of Jewish heritage, like it meant more to me. No, nothing of the Holocaust affects me of any kind except for the fact that I know it was my ancestors that went through that. Okay. However, I don't care what anybody says. It is the most recent and the worst event to happen to humanity in the history of mankind.
Yeah, right.
Period. 11 million people killed. It's the worst event that ever happened, and for some reason, it's forgotten. For some reason, nobody gives a shit about.
I don't know if it's forgotten. No,
You know?
I just think I think this is the Jewish story. Is that this is why the Jewish people have survived, just because it means something to them, and the rest of the world keeps moving and shaking, and it means, and you know what I'm saying?
So
It's like
sad, but yeah,
the
you're
story of us, which is awesome. And I do think this with that trial, the one thing that you get to feel and see a little bit is that you're right. I'm not Jewish. And I'm part of that world of wave of this is just part of the history of the world, you know, but it brought individual stories to it. It wasn't like, oh, you were just the worst person ever. That girl got up there and she said, you did this.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a sister, you did this. And it was like, that was, it's like a collision between Adolf Hitler not realizing in some ways that like he's thinking on these political, at one point he said this to homegirl. He said, I've killed more mugs than nuclear weapons or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was like they meant nothing to him. Like, it was like, I mean, it was like, it's just a move on a chessboard in some way, like millions of lives. And then in that trial, you see that juxtaposed with like, hey, that was my sister and I go in the grocery store, yo.
Right. It's the difference
First
between
person
a guy
account.
giving an
Yeah.
order to do this and people that actually experience what that order
Cool.
entails.
Yeah.
You know, well, like when you're in that position, and it happens in every position, every job, everywhere you go to. When you're higher up, the decisions you make affect more people, but you don't realize how it affects the people that you're making the decisions for. And I'm not trying to like give Adolf Hitler a pass because he didn't know exactly the consequences of what he was doing, because he did. He's a motherfucker and he did. But it's like facing it face to face. Like you're in a glass box. And first of all, if you're in a glass box in a trial, there should be no reason why you're not guilty anyway.
I should have put him
Like,
in
why
the
do they gotta keep you in a
mask,
glass
that
box?
Silence of the Lambs mask,
Yeah,
just to make us feel cooler about it.
First off, none of this is real because Hitler
Right.
supposedly
Actually, you
died.
do have
So
to
let's-
worry about that as
Maybe.
people. Like that's
I
a
said
great
supposedly
point.
died.
There you go. There you go.
That's a great point. Look, is that I know that trial scene, my favorite Adolf moment in this show, because he's kind of like he's frail, he's in hiding. He like if you think
Cole
about
Cox's
it,
woman.
he is a he gets taught, he gets his old lady, the Garbles lady or whatever, what's her
The
name?
Colonel.
The Colonel.
She
yep.
tries to dress him down twice in this show. And both times you're like, oh, this is old. She thinks old Adolf over the hill. She's like, oh, and that time, one time he butts her with that rifle, bro. And you are like, oh crap, Adolf still got it. Like, I mean, he's
Like, I said,
oh, I know. And there was one other time she said that, and he was just like, and it was, and I think in the trial, that was kind of a cool element to it, is like he thought he was the dude, even when he wasn't. I mean, he
Well, you see the
busted her
back
in the
and
face
forth.
with that rifle. I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah.
I was happy for that moment because of like I'm gonna do once again. I'm gonna get right back to character breakdowns, but like there's a moment to where I feel that you have the world as it is meets the story that we're being told, and it is that like, am I better to be popular or am I better to just be evil? And they play that so well for a 70s spinoff for a situation that probably is absolute fantasy, I would hope, versus one that extremely parallels the time that we live in.
Yeah.
However, I think that's especially what you're supposed to get out of this whole entire thing. You're supposed to get that duality of what is real and what is not, what could be, what isn't. And so I appreciate that story reaching that far because I feel like they really did. Back to your point about trying to tell a story for the second season and it being like an almost impossible task.
It really was hard.
They capped that shit off really well.
What did
That
you
one
think about
episode-
the American crazy dude they introduced? It was like the
Travis. Okay, that's what I was gonna say. I'm gonna do. Let's talk about characters real fast.
All right.
I want you to think about. I'll pick one just to discuss, but I want you guys to think about who is your favorite character in this show. Hands down, one person. Who is it? If you have it, let me know. But if not, I'll go ahead and talk about some. I want to start with the Colonel because the Colonel is we're led to believe in the first season that the Colonel is the end all be all. And with a name like the Colonel, you're not going to end up in a position of absolute power. You know, no one wants to be the Colonel. That's middle management in the big scheme of things. And so when you have this woman that shows up out of nowhere, she's walking in with a trench coat and a full, Nazi posse. She ends up being the big bad in season 1 that really isn't that bad to the person that gets cold cocked with the buttstock in season 2.
Yeah.
You think that she's going to be the
I
person that
can't
comes
tell
out
if
on
she's
top.
hot or not. Is that you're talking about the girl that got hot?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
she's attractive, and then there's one scene with her saggy arms, and I was like, oh god, that poor kid.
But there's that scene where she's sitting at the poolside trying to entice Travis. She's like, take your shirt off, do this, do that. And like she's coming from a position of power.
This motherfucker.
Yeah,
he's a fucking psycho.
I was expecting something different on the finale scene that happened between her, Adolf, and Travis, and blah blah blah. But
Right. Okay. I understand that.
I didn't get what I was expecting. But I just think that character was very, very numbed down for season 2. The moment they showed Adolf at the end of season 1, she was curbed for season 2. Who's got a favorite person?
My favorite is totally and I'm trying to find his name real quick. I should know it right off.
Who is it?
The Jewish actor.
Oh yeah,
Lonnie,
the cocaine addict. Yeah,
Lonnie.
Oh,
Flash
Josh
is
Radnor from
my favorite.
from How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, he is my favorite throughout the show, and I like the old couple too, Sal and the woman, his wife. Like I actually think this is why I think this show is her Mindy Markowitz.
Mindy. Yes.
And her husband was, I think his name was Sal, if I can remember.
Sal.
Murray Markowitz. So this couple was delightful throughout the show to me.
Yes.
This is why I think the whole show is unsustainable. Because here's the thing: is that like, yeah, I gave you Al Pacino as the A-lister, but bro, like you're talking about the Colonel, that's like a real actor. Then you hit the adorable old couple, but Biff Simpson too, Dylan Baker, who plays the guy who's like, I mean, these are real actors like dropping this shit, even if they're not doing their best performance. I found that old couple delightful, but I love I don't know why I like him. I just felt like that Lonnie dude felt very 70s ish, like this. He just fit right into. I felt like my mom would have bumped into him in the club in Queens or something.
The fact that he ended it all with carrying his Oscar around was like, it was so good. But he was.
And then they tried to make him vulnerable in season 2 by being in love, more love being even.
Well, the addiction came from love. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, but I just thought like his movies were funny. I just thought this was like I don't know. He was my favorite. And the Biff dude, when that scene when he kills everybody at the barbecue, bro, I was like, I'm all in on this character too.
Opening scene for the first season. Yeah.
And somehow they made him part of the show for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't
stretch him into season 2 for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's what
not
they
for no
did.
reason, but
they were like this. We've got 12 actors that are really great. Make it work, bro.
My first off, I love Joe. I hated the fact that they brainwashed him for season 2. I like the
great point. Great point. How did you handle that? It was kind of weird, wasn't it?
I could understand what they were trying to do. I just didn't understand without the backstory how well they were able to do it with that kind of speed. Because I feel like at some point you'd need to be able to bust out. Like when they start showing his moments of like getting his fingernails ripped off and everything else that he actually has going on, it becomes a problem of what do you do with bringing this very moral character into a such bigger story without actually giving him something, like it. There was no reason for him to jump off that cliff.
Gimp in Pulp Fiction. It's just uncomfortable.
It was. When he's laying there rubbing his rabbit, you're like,
I know. It's just like,
I understand the piece, but
I can understand how too. Like, I mean, I think it's interesting the brainwashing fact, but the deprogramming happens so quick. It's like, hey, take a look at this flower.
Yes.
I'm with you guys now. It's like he's back. Yeah. I think this is again why we knew, like, if this was trying to expand, if I was the writer tasked with, hey, we got to do season 3, I would have tried to make him brainwashed by like some imperial Japanese leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I found. That was the hard part with the brain. I was like, oh shit, maybe people can be brainwashed this. But then I was like, why is this Japanese? Well, I think he might have been Korean but I almost like, how can you tie in that there was this Pacific War part of it? You could almost do like, it was
either the Korean or Vietnam War. I'm assuming Vietnam.
He was in Vietnam, but he fought for, I think he was Japanese American, because I remember them saying something to the effect of, I was born in the concentration camps in America, but I still fought for us in Vietnam. I think in the show he was Japanese American. So I think that's how I would have probably. I was like, why is this Japanese dude brainwashed by Hitler and this rabbit? That was the part that that was, if they could have just been like, oh, golden era, like Red's Rising Sun, I would have been like season 3. Here we come.
I can definitely see that. I think that I don't want to skip past it. Yeah, but with him, like I like Joe. I just really wish Joe was more of the story that I wish I would have gotten. My favorite of the hunters is Harriet. I am a sucker for anyone who can fluently use the F word.
Is that the black girl?
No, that's the nun.
No. Oh, she's the scary one, bro. Like I wouldn't fuck with her.
I don't know what it is that I can't imagine how
she's
you
cute.
have.
She's cute. It's
I don't appreciate the haircut.
Scary.
In the second one, but man,
she's scary, bro.
She does super double triple agent shit that comes out in that second season, and I don't appreciate all of it because I feel like Hava and the relationship with Jonah and his mom were totally different, but I just like Harriet, and the fact that she ended up with Millie at the very end was interesting.
Oh, good point. Good point. It's like I guess you gotta try to like let's make as many character connections as we can make in this while we're doing it. Right. She scared me. Like she's the one I wouldn't want to be. Like if I was like, hey, Jonah's coming to kill you or Sister Harriet's coming to kill you, I'd be more worried about Sister Harriet than I would Jonah.
Oh, she's cold cock killer, dude. Like it comes out of nowhere.
I agree. So it's just fun. It's a fun show to me.
But Travis, you want to talk about maniacal? Travis was the bad guy, and he totally pulled off Joker-esque vibes.
That's the American dude, right?
Yes. In season 1, you had a position with him where he is just absolutely, totally ready to take on what they have as far as a party goes already. But then you start to see some shit that's really real, and he goes into the system. And when he's in jail, what does he do? He starts trying to just bring more people in with him.
Bro,
and it's sad, but it's absolutely true.
It was wild. I think he's like the American wolf. Like whatever he is like the most, dude, he's on the sociopathic level. It's just like bizarre. It's like, dang, like even Hitler in the show is like, chill, homie.
Watching him run after people,
so crazy. Man. You're like so sociopathic. Hitler is off put.
I don't. Here's the
thing.
Uncomfortable.
Like, he's uncomfortable every time he's in the room. I'm like, I think he's doing a really good job in the acting with it because I'm like, when I'm watching the show and he's on it, I'm like looking over my shoulder and shit. Like, he's wild.
I don't with his face and his mannerisms that he has when he's on the chase, like it's so disturbing. You're right. Like the maniacalness of all of it is crazy. He is such a good actor. He is. Oh,
this is a character show now that you bring it up like this. This is less about even the story now. It's just a character show in season 2.
Yeah, no, I totally break up take all the systems that you have in a show, and it comes from what the characters add versus what the story is versus everything else. And when you really start breaking down the characters per se, because when you start taking Millie, Jonah, Travis is the bad guy, Harriet, Lonnie, Roxy, Joe, that whole entire clique is just ridiculous. Like it is
it's fun. It's just fun.
Unbelievable that you put it all together. But
that's why it's unsustainable. It's just like, hey, let's just do this. This is gonna be awesome. Let's write this movie this week.
Yeah.
Man, I love it. I thought it was fun. We can hear you.
Yeah.
That's so funny because I can't hear. Like, I don't know what's going on with my microphone right now.
It's all right. It's late anyway. I mean, like, how much we want to break this down? I just wanted to say, this was a show I thought this is a novel I would recommend to you if I read it over the weekend. That was well put together. I thought it was fun. And I still maintain the wolf is the evilest mug in the background of this movie. Like he is all about him.
It's hard to
That's
say
it.
that.
Like
in
he is a
in show
creature
with
of
Adolf Hitler.
survival.
Yeah, it's hard to say that in a show with Hitler in it.
Right. That's my whole point.
Yeah.
We have two characters. We have a German character and an American character who are worse, who are scarier than Hitler in the room. Like it was like this. Imagine if you were just put in a room, you went to a bar. This is the way I always joke. I'm from Greenville, North Carolina. It's a party town, and we're not far away from a marine base. And it's like we're known for a lot of girls at ECU. So every now and then, actually frequently, a pack of Marines would show up at the bar and be like, yo, let's roll. We're going somewhere else. Because they are there to take over your girls. And you know what I'm saying? Like, is this like, I mean, like, so if you just put me in a room with these people that made me feel uncomfortable, the wolf and this other guy, this American dude makes him feel, I think I'm like over there probably gravitating. I'm not gonna say those words out loud. But like shit. I don't know what corner to stand in. I don't want to stand in the corner with nobody. That's my point. That's my point. The people were off-putting, bro. They were off-putting. Like they made me feel the scariest people in my whole life have not been people who are physically superior or something, but they just lacked control of reality.
Oh yeah.
Right. It was like it's like
no centering point in your life.
Yeah, it's like oh man, like this moment doesn't matter. Like they don't think in moments beyond this moment. And those two people were like that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, sociopaths. So
all right.
Well, look, I don't want to cut the conversation short, but I'm having
Let's do it. Let's cut it short.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on with my audio right here. I need to upgrade some stuff. But Tony, man, I really appreciate you telling me or recommending the show to me. It's been great. You've recommended a couple books to me that have been phenomenal. I haven't started that one you showed me yesterday.
It's okay. It's not great. It's not the greatest thing. I just listen to shit when I'm in the car.
Yeah. Well, I'm saving that for tomorrow because Saturdays I don't have new podcasts that come out generally. So Saturday is my audiobook day. So last Saturday I streamed the entire audiobook you sent me last week and it was great. So I'm going to check this one out tomorrow.
Impact Winter. I just like checking out independent content too.
Yeah.
Like it's fun. I just wish I could write some of this stuff. That's what I want to work on. Like, imagine if you can actually do this. I don't even care if it's the best show in the world. I just want to make a show.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I gotta go.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Tony, thanks for coming on, man. Where can they find you real quick?
C3 Panthers podcast. Ask Greg.
Yep,
there you go.
Check us out later, man. I appreciate it. You had to go. All right, man. Let's go and get out of here too. Great show tonight. We talked about a whole lot of different stuff. Had some great guests. Greg had his normal, some kind of issue, audio problems, production. I always have something that goes on, but apparently I either need a new set of headphones or a new microphone, or maybe I'll just buy both and go with that. So, but Ross, they can find you here.
Here,
I hear you. And you can find me at the BatDaddy52 on Twitter. It's my personal handle. Hit me up. You want to check out the show? It's at GCS Podcast 1 on Twitter. We're here every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. We're talking about all the coolest stuff that there is to watch on television. So come check us out. And television, movies, books, all that good stuff. Check out the show. You know what? I'm going to make it a point that I drop these on Saturdays from now on. So as soon as I get done with this show, I'm going to go ahead and produce it, put it out there and drop it. So that way the fans get it earlier, because it is kind of bad to drop the review for the last week's episode of Last of Us 2 days after the new episodes come out. So I will try to get it out earlier, but check it out on any podcatcher of your choice. We're here every week, and keep pounding. That's all I can say.
Later,
y'all.